Chapter 849. Boom! The 10 divine soldier souls flew into the sky from Su Yoi's hands and exploded out with immense power, causing the entire sky to tremble as explosions sounded out in all directions. Immediately, the clouds started to change as clouds continuously gathered here. A wild gale blew in all directions, and an oppressive feeling covered the surrounding 10,000 kilometers. It was as if a storm was about to arrive, and the wild beasts in the surroundings could not help but quickly hide. At that moment, the 10 divine soldier souls turned into 10 massive orbs of light that exploded out with immense power. The images of the soldiers within them started to slowly melt and turn into traces of violet aura. Boom! The violet aura within the orbs of light continuously wavered and gave off a powerful attractive force that shot into the sky. A massive violet star giving off noble starlight and a boundless aura broke through the restrictions of the day and descended above Qin's body. Su Yoi raised her sword, and her body gave off traces of a black aura that gave off an austere and conquering aura, and a terrifying power exploded out from her body. Boom! Her body gave off a large amount of black light that formed a black pillar of light that shot into the sky, and it gave off immense power as it shot towards the massive star. The violet star that gave off boundless power was gradually dyed black, and it gave off a black light as a conquering aura spread out in the sky, causing the sky to be filled with an aura of conquering. Boom! The massive violet star became completely black and gave off an intense and shocking black light. A black pillar of starlight containing powerful general star power landed on Su Yoi's body, and the 10 orbs of light gathered and fused in her sword, completing the fusion of the general armament. However, at that moment, the massive black star did not disappear. Zhao Fu looked at Bai Shihan and Sun Hanxiang beside him, and both of them felt a wave of power summoning them. They walked forwards and raised their weapons, exploding out with general star power. Another 2 massive explosions sounded out as 2 pillars of light containing terrifying power shot into the sky and slammed into the sky, causing the sky to tremble. The 2 stars giving off different lights and giving off boundless power broke through the sky and slowly descended into this world. One gave off boundless blood-red light, while the other gave off intense green light. The 3 stars each occupied an area and started to resonate with each other. Bang! The skies seemed to explode as a terrifying aura covered the entire human world. The sky gradually darkened as a massive gale started to blow. Everyone felt their chests sink, making them feel quite uncomfortable. Another gathering of 3 stars. Originally, when everyone looked at the Alcade star in the sky, they weren't too surprised. After all, by this time, many people had already awakened general stars. But now, the Alcade star had just appeared, and the other 2 stars had also appeared. In the past, only Qin had managed to gather all 3 stars and form the Killing Destruction Wolf formation, allowing Imperial Prince Qin to awaken the Myrtle Imperial Star, making countless people feel incredibly envious. Who is it this time? Who has this ability? Thinking of this, everyone couldn't help but think about the direction in which the 3 stars had formed. It was actually north again, which was a very inauspicious direction. Is it Qin again? No one wanted to think of this, but the location where the 3 general stars had appeared was the same as last time. Even though they couldn't determine the direction last time, they were certain that the 3 general stars were above Qin this time. This caused everyone's expressions to fall. These 3 general stars were completely new auras. Could it be that Qin had gathered 3 general stars? However, Qin had already awakened the Myrtle Imperial Star, so even if he gathered 3 general stars, it would be useless. Could it be that Imperial Prince Qin had awakened another Myrtle Imperial Star? That was completely impossible. After all, no matter what emperor it was, they could only have one Emperor's Star. After all, each Emperor's Star determined a person's fate, and everyone only had one life, so they only had one Emperor's Star. Now that Qin had gathered 3 general stars, everyone felt incredibly envious. This meant that with their abilities, they would at least be able to defend a region in the future. The more people there were, the more powerful a country would be, and the faster it would develop. Over at Qin, under the might of the three general stars, Zhao Fu felt as if his blood was burning, and an intense pain spread throughout his body. Under this immense pain, an ancient blood-red rune appeared on Zhao Fu's forehead. At that moment, Bai Qi, Wang Jian, Wei Liao, and the others who had awakened general stars fell to calling them, and they lost control of their bodies. There were exactly 10 people, and they walked over to the pained Zhao Fu and formed a circle. Facing the pained Zhao Fu, there was nothing they could do. They could not control their bodies, and under the control of some sort of power, they drew their general armaments and pointed them at the sky. Boom! 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 Terrifying auras exploded out as Bai Qi, Wang Jian, and the others released different aura flames, and pillars of light containing terrifying power shot into the sky. The different general stars gave off intense starlight and boundless power as they slowly descended, causing the sky to seem to explode. Countless cracks spread out, and the heavens and earth became dark as the entire world fell silent. The 10 general stars each stood in a corner, giving off brilliant starlight that was incredibly eye-catching in the boundless darkness. They were like 10 suns that lit up the heavens and earth. At that moment, everyone felt that something was off, because the sky seemed to contain some sort of heaven's will, causing countless creatures to kneel. This power could not be resisted or questioned, and they could only obey. At that moment, everyone in the fish scale world, dark demon world, and grassy world sensed something and looked towards a human world. The light in their worlds gradually dimmed, and clouds quickly gathered. Heaven and earth essence, Qi, quickly flowed into the human world, and the heaven and earth will in the sky became even more intense. Those with weaker wills felt their minds go blank, and they could not help but kneel to the ground. All of the kings in the fish scale world, dark demon world, grassy world, and human world looked incredibly serious as they looked towards Qin. They could feel their king's bloodline trembling in fear, wanting them to kneel. The golden dragon looked at the changes in Zhao Fu's body in shock. Sensing Zhao Fu's shocking changes, he could not understand what was going on. Zhao Fu's pain reached its peak, and he howled as his body continuously gave off a black aura, and a black dragon-like light shot into the sky. Boom! A shocking explosion sounded out, as if the heavenly Tao had descended. The skies of the 4 worlds all split open, and boundless primal chaos aura seeped out from the cracks. That incredibly powerful might not only seem to be crushed by countless people's bodies, but even their souls were crying out. Chapter 850. Strands of golden light seeped out from the countless cracks in the sky. The cracks gradually grew larger and larger. It was a kind of silent tearing. At the same time, the mysterious heavens will also became more intense. It was like a huge mountain that pressed down on everyone's hearts. On the ground, people knelt on the ground, pressing their heads against the ground as they looked towards Qin. No matter if they were outlanders, indigenous residents, or players, they all trembled under this heaven's will. Even the countless beasts were the same. They all knelt on the ground, pressing their heads against the ground, showing their servility and sincerity. It looked like countless creatures were worshipping it, and it was as if the entire world was submitting to it. It was a supreme emperor, and the entire world seemed to be under its control. Of course, there were some people who resisted its power and did not kneel, such as Tina Pendragon. The fish scale, dark demon, and grassy world's kings exploded out with all of their bloodline's power to resist the heaven's will. However, it was all for naught. Traces of blood flowed out of their eyes, ears, nose, and mouth, and their bones started to shatter. Under this heaven's will, they were incredibly weak and lowly. In the end, they lay on the ground like corpses, looking incredibly wretched. The golden light that seeped out from the crack also gradually became stronger, filling the entire sky and spreading outwards, sweeping past the long river, sweeping past the mountains, The heavenly domain barrier was unable to block the golden light, and the golden light also swept past the surrounding world in an instant, heading even further away. No matter what the creatures in the surrounding thousands of worlds were doing, they all stopped and looked towards the sky. They felt a supreme might coming from the direction of the golden light. Boom! A shocking explosion sounded out throughout the surrounding worlds, and the sky above the human world shattered into nothingness. A massive golden star, giving off an incredibly noble and supreme aura, slowly descended from the boundless darkness. At that moment, at the center of the heaven-awakened world, on a mountain peak covered in lush vegetation and celestial chi, a ruddy-faced elder wearing a Taoist robe seemed to sense something and looked into the distance. "Master, what is it?" a disciple asked as he looked at the serious-looking elder in the distance. The elder raised his hand and said seriously as he pointed towards the human world, "There's a celestial emperor star descending in that direction." The disciple looked in that direction, and a trace of a smile appeared on his face. It was most likely an imperial prince of the human race who had heavens while descending. This was a blessing for the human race. Such a person was a peerless genius and would definitely be able to influence the heaven-awakened world in the future. In that case, Master, disciple will immediately go and find out which imperial prince of the central region has descended. As one of the most powerful sects in the human race, our Tiandao sect should prepare a small gift to express our congratulations. The celestial emperor star was a star that had its own emperor's fate, and it was the favored child of the heavens. It would receive a massive amount of fate from the entire heaven-awakened world, and just the word celestial emperor showed that it was the emperor of the heavens. Not only would all creatures submit to it, but even the heavens and earth would submit to it. It was an extremely rare star that reigned above heavenly king stars, and even empires might not have one. In order to obtain a celestial emperor star, one first had to have the human race's bloodline. After all, the celestial emperor star was the supreme emperor star for the human race, and one also had to have a sovereign bloodline. This was the lowest requirement, as without a sovereign bloodline, how could one awaken a heaven emperor? It could be said that the person with the celestial emperor star was the person with the strongest sovereign bloodline, the most potential, the most extraordinary talent, and the heaven-defying fate. Only the person with the celestial emperor star could obtain the celestial emperor star. Even in the boundless heaven-awakened world, which had billions of humans, only a few people had a celestial emperor star. Every celestial emperor star that descended was incredibly important to the human race because it had the power to change the fate of the entire human race. For such a heaven-defying figure, the various human factions would naturally try to befriend him. As one of the strongest sects in the human race, the Tiandao sect had a good relationship with many human empires. In fact, the Tiandao sect even had many imperial princes. However, this celestial emperor star was not the only one. Within 100 years, this was the 7th celestial emperor star to descend. The first 6 were all geniuses that the entire world paid attention to, and they were true elites in the heaven-awakened world. Their immense potential caused countless higher beings to sigh in amazement. The 7th celestial emperor star would definitely not be weak, and his potential would definitely be immense. The Tiandao sect should go and congratulate him, and it would be best if they could bring him to the Tiandao sect to nurture him so that he could form a connection with the heaven's law. The first 6 had been taken by other sects, so the Tiandao sect could not miss out on this opportunity. That was what the disciple was thinking. However, there were many empires in the heaven-awakened world, and no one knew which celestial emperor star had descended to. It was most likely an empire at the center of the heaven-awakened world. No matter if it was fate, foundation, or strength, an empire at the center of the heaven-awakened world was more powerful than an empire outside of the heaven-awakened world. Only with such conditions could a celestial emperor star be born. The first 6 were no exception. They were all imperial princes from the center of the heaven-awakened world. No matter if it was fate, foundation, or strength, an empire at the center of the heaven-awakened world would be more powerful than an empire outside of the heaven-awakened world. At the center of the heaven-awakened world's fate and spirit chi, there would naturally be some heaven-defying figures and extraordinary creatures. With their terrifying abilities, they could easily control the direction of the world and decide the fate of billions of creatures. With this innate advantage, they could completely suppress the outer regions. The two sides were on completely different levels. The outer regions were only a bit better than some of the outlying regions, and bullying the outlying regions was not a problem. However, they could not compare to the central regions. As for the outlying regions, they were viewed as barbaric, undeveloped, and barren. They were the lowest level regions in the heaven-awakened world, and there were only a few ants struggling at death's door in those low-level regions. In fact, the people in the central regions did not even bother going there, as they looked down on the outer regions. How could they care about the outlying regions? It was like how a billionaire would look down on a commoner or a beggar. That was what the disciple was thinking. So he ordered people to go and find out which imperial prince from the central regions had descended. "There's no need to go," the elder said seriously. The disciple felt quite surprised and asked in confusion, "Why, master? That's a celestial emperor." Before he could finish speaking, the elder cut him off. "This celestial emperor star is in the outlying regions, and it has been affected by heaven's secrets, so it's difficult to determine its location." Chapter 851. The disciple looked on in disbelief because he had never heard of a celestial emperor star appearing in a remote region before. He could not understand how this was possible, and if it wasn't for his master, he definitely would not have believed such a ridiculous thing. However, the disciple could not help but ask, "Master, is that true? A celestial emperor star appearing in a remote region?" The elder lightly nodded and said, "This celestial emperor star is quite special. Not only does it have a trace of killing intent, but it also has a trace of calamity and darkness. It's possible that the person who awakens a celestial emperor star is an extremely dangerous person, and it's even more dangerous than the other 6 celestial emperor stars." After hearing this, the disciple felt incredibly shocked. He had never thought that such a thing would happen. A remote region was so barren and had so little fate, yet could still give birth to a celestial emperor star. What's more, one had to have a true sovereign bloodline to awaken a celestial emperor star. However, who had a sovereign bloodline in a remote region? At most, it would be a low-grade royal bloodline. How could a true sovereign bloodline appear? Some higher beings often used heaven-defying methods to do some secretive things in remote regions. Could it be that this had something to do with them? Thinking about that, the disciple asked, "What should we do, master?" The elder looked away and thought for a moment before replying, "Keep a close eye on this. Many people have most likely sensed the 7 celestial emperor star's descent." The disciple nodded and started to gather information. Next to a device made of countless metal circles, a few elders wearing white robes and giving off terrifying auras stood next to the device, seeming to be calculating something. They were the most powerful faction in the heaven-awakened world's central region, and they were called Heaven's Fate. Their divination skills were unparalleled in the heaven-awakened world, and it was said that they knew the fates of everyone in the world. They were the guides of fate. Their mysterious power caused countless factions to treat them with great respect, and they viewed them as distinguished guests. No one dared to offend them. These white-robed elders were naturally important figures in Heaven's Fate. They had once given a celestial emperor star a vague direction, causing it to develop dozens of times faster. Apart from the white-robed elders, there were many people standing around them. Divining the fate of a celestial emperor star was quite a big matter. So many people were gathered here. At this moment, the white-robed elders calmed themselves down and adjusted their mental states to their peak. They started to use Heaven's secrets, which was that apparatus. Their consciousnesses also fused with the laws of heaven and earth, chasing after that golden light, trying to grasp that trace of fate. They were indeed higher beings. Within the chaotic Heaven's secrets, they had managed to find a trace of Zhao Fu, celestial Fu. They could not help but feel delighted. Seeing the fate of someone with a celestial emperor star would allow them to know many shocking things. Their consciousnesses traced a trace and finally found a celestial emperor star that belonged to Zhao Fu within the boundless primal chaos. It was like a massive sun and gave off a terrifying might. It gave off intense golden light and shined in all directions. In front of the massive celestial emperor star, the higher beings' consciousnesses were like a few bugs, incredibly weak and small. This was not because they were weak, but because divining heaven's fate was not an easy thing to do. Being able to send their consciousnesses into heaven's secrets was already quite difficult, and if they were not careful, they might receive a backlash from heaven's secrets. Right now, they only dared to stand in the distance because the celestial emperor star's aura was simply too powerful, making it difficult for them to get close. However, at such a distance, they were unable to see Zhao Fu's fate. As such, they took the risk and endured the celestial emperor star's massive might as they advanced step by step. Finally, after putting a lot of effort, they were able to get close to the celestial emperor star. Even though this distance was still quite far, it was their limit. It was not quite possible for them to go any further, but they would be able to slightly divine the celestial emperor star's fate from here. However, just as they stepped in, they were shocked to find that things were completely different from what they had expected. Next to the celestial emperor star, there was a star giving off a devilish blood-red light. How is this possible? Bang! Just as they had this horrified thought in their minds, the golden star and the blood-red star sensed their approach and emitted an even more intense light. Like a hurricane, they were swept away by their consciousnesses. Their bodies next to the celestial emperor star were also sent flying by a formless energy, crashing to the ground and coughing up mouthfuls of blood. This caused everyone's expressions to fall, and they hurriedly helped them up and asked, "What's going on? Did you see anything?" After the elders' consciousnesses retreated, they still looked incredibly shocked and did not seem to hear anyone else's words. They looked quite dumbfounded as they repeatedly said, "This is impossible. This is impossible. This is impossible." After a while, with everyone's help, they came back to their senses and told everyone what they had seen in the celestial emperor star, causing a massive uproar. How could it have two fate stars? What's more, that blood-red star not only gave off a trace of an emperor's aura, but also an aura of slaughter, destruction, and disaster. It was similar to the inauspicious star Mars, but that blood-red star was even more terrifying. Are you sure? How could such a thing happen? Also, what kind of fate star is that blood-red star? Everyone could not believe it and felt incredibly shocked, and they could not help but ask for more information. However, the few old men sighed and said the same thing as before. All of this is real. The few of us only discovered it when we stepped in, but in the next second, we were attacked by them. Our consciousness was repelled by them and automatically returned to our bodies. Hearing this, everyone believed it, but they still did not know why such a thing had happened. Many people left, planning to look up some ancient texts. Some people directly reported this matter to the Fate's Sovereign, the person with the highest authority in heaven's will. Within the Heavenly Book Pavilion, the faction that published all sorts of books, a scholarly middle-aged man stood at the top of a building and looked into the distance before smiling as he said to the people beside him, "There's another big piece of news. There's another big event in this year's calendar of events. Today, the seventh celestial emperor's star has descended." The other people holding books felt quite shocked and looked at the scholarly middle-aged man as they asked, "Pavilion Master, is this true?" This is a good thing. The human race has 7 celestial emperor stars descend every 100 years, which is more than the other 7 races. Which empire's emperor is it? Should we go and gather information? Chapter 852. This caused all of the people holding books to feel quite surprised, and they could not help but feel quite confused. Their factions were not like ordinary factions at the center of the Heaven Awakened world, and they were much more well-informed than ordinary people. Otherwise, they would not have been able to write so many books. No matter if it was the Heaven Awakened world's central region, outer regions, or even the boundary regions, they would all know about some things. There were very few things in the Heaven Awakened world that they did not know about. The celestial emperor star was most likely at the center of the heaven-awakened world. So why did the pavilion master say that they could not obtain any information about it? Everyone was puzzled by this. The scholarly middle-aged man could tell that they were confused and lightly laughed as he explained that celestial emperor star is at the boundary region, and it's the most desolate place. Moreover, it's covered by heaven's secrets, so we naturally cannot obtain any information about it. What? Everyone was shocked and could not help but ask. The celestial emperor star is the human race's supreme emperor star. Why would it appear in such a desolate place? This doesn't seem to have ever happened before. The scholarly middle-aged man lightly nodded and said, "This is indeed the first time. Perhaps something big has happened there. Let's send some people in that direction and see if we can obtain any information." Hearing this, everyone nodded in understanding. The Heaven Spirit Financial Group, which was the faction that had created the Heaven Spirit Steel, sent a message to the higher-ups. The people who had been in charge of observing the mysterious and ferocious early-stage Emperor bloodline suddenly discovered that there were big changes to the blood when the celestial Emperor star had descended. The bright red blood gave off a piercing golden light, and it gave off a supreme power that seemed to be able to make the heavens and earth submit. Even though it was just an orb of blood, it caused those people to feel a chill. Their legs trembled, and they felt an urge to kneel down. This sovereign bloodline had been the focus of the Heaven Spirit Financial Group, and it received even more attention than ordinary sovereign bloodlines. This was a decision made by the higher-ups of the Heaven Spirit Financial Group, and no one dared to question it. Reality proved that they had not been wrong. When the orb of blood started to change, the people in charge of observing it hurriedly reported this to the higher-ups. The higher-ups were also attracted by the ripples from the celestial Emperor star's descent. At first, they did not pay much attention to the news and were about to discuss the celestial Emperor star's descent. However, they had never thought that the orb of blood would give off the aura of the celestial Emperor star. This caused the major figures to look incredibly shocked. They had never thought that this savage, ruthless, murderous, and devilish early-stage Emperor bloodline would be the owner of the celestial Emperor star. Back then, they had felt that this sovereign bloodline was not ordinary, so they had ordered people to carefully observe it. However, things had completely exceeded their expectations. This person had really become the possessor of the seventh Emperor star. As the seventh person in the human race, his future would be limitless. At the same time, they understood the importance of this matter. Right now, even if other powers were to search for him, they would not be able to obtain any information about this imperial prince. However, they had already obtained quite a bit of information. Passed down the order, this matter is classified as top secret. Whoever leaks, it will be severely punished. The people who had discovered the mysterious and ferocious early-stage Emperor bloodline were all ordered to not discuss this matter and to not leak it. At the same time, this Emperor bloodline was given the highest priority. This caused the people in charge to look incredibly shocked. They had underestimated the importance of this mysterious Emperor bloodline. It had already received a lot of attention from the higher-ups, and now it was even more so. This was the same treatment as observing a top-tier expert. They looked at each other and knew how important this matter was. As such, they hid this matter in the depths of their hearts and would not speak of it in the future. If they accidentally spoke of it, they might be killed. At the same time, they felt quite curious. Just who was this possessor of the sovereign bloodline? Who had the ability to receive such attention from the higher-ups? Within a majestic palace filled with ghostly chi, a pale-faced young man sat within. His body gave off an incredibly terrifying might and an emperor's aura, and sensing the ripples in the distance, he could not help but frown. Recently, fate seemed to be biased towards the human race, and a seventh celestial emperor star had appeared. This had already surpassed the god, demon, and devil race's emperor stars. AI, if our death race could awaken one more celestial emperor star, it would be great. In the future, the death race would have more authority. However, our death race's relationship with the human race has been quite good recently. Right now, the ones who are the most displeased are the god, demon and devil race. With their prideful personalities, they would not be able to accept being suppressed by the human race. Just as he had said, a seventh celestial emperor star had appeared in the human race, making the god, demon, and devil race's three leaders incredibly displeased. When the celestial emperor star gave off terrifying ripples, many sleeping demon ancestors, god lords, and great devils woke up and exploded out with terrifying auras. They vented their displeasure and ordered people to find the possessor of the seventh celestial emperor star. In just an instant, countless people from the demon race, god race, and devil race received orders to gather information on the seventh celestial emperor star. Immediately, news of the seventh celestial emperor star quickly spread throughout the central region, causing quite a commotion. By now, almost everyone knew that the seventh celestial emperor star had appeared, and they were all discussing this matter. However, no one had any accurate information. Some people said that it was an imperial prince of some empire, some said that it was someone from some sect, and some said that it was a woman and that the human race would soon have another empress. Some said that this imperial prince had a devil bloodline, and that his celestial emperor star had a devilish aura. A man in black clothes stood on a circular pool. He gave off a terrifying aura that caused the space around him to twist. His body seemed illusory, and even an emperor would tremble in front of him. He was a higher being who had woken up from the tremors at the heaven domain heart, which was when Tuoba Ching's bloodline had awakened. He had been paying attention to her aura, and a trace of a smile appeared on his face. His gaze returned to Qing's head. The massive golden star had completely descended and silently floated above Qing's head. Zhao Fu was lifted up by a formless energy and floated below the golden star. The intense pain from before had almost caused Zhao Fu to lose consciousness, and he was now powerlessly lifted up. Boom! Another massive explosion sounded out as the golden star gave off an even more resplendent golden light. At that moment, countless traces of violet aura flooded over from the horizon, inundating everything before entering Zhao Fu's body. The violet aura gave off an incredibly noble aura as it entered Zhao Fu's body and gathered at his chest. The golden dragon looked incredibly confused, while the black dragon obediently retreated to the side. Chapter 853. After the violet dragon egg formed, it continuously devoured a massive amount of violet qi, and the might it gave off became stronger and stronger. Even more violet qi flowed over from the horizon and entered Zhao Fu's body, and Zhao Fu's body seemed to go through some sort of transformation. As the violet qi that the dragon egg absorbed became greater and greater, the terrifying aura reached its peak, and suddenly, all of the violet qi was absorbed by Zhao Fu. Roar! A dragon's roar sounded throughout the heavens as the violet dragon egg started to crack after absorbing a large amount of violet qi. A dragon's roar sounded out as if a sovereign was descending. The eggshell started to shatter and turned back into traces of violet qi. A violet dragon appeared within Zhao Fu's body, giving off a powerful aura as it flowed within Zhao Fu's body. A massive emperor's aura spread out from Zhao Fu's body. In that instant, it was as if the heavens and earth were going to submit to him, and it was an incredibly shocking and unforgettable scene. Finally, Zhao Fu awakened the celestial emperor star, and a violet dragon appeared within his body. This violet dragon looked like a normal dragon, but its horns were forked and its claws had 6 toes. It was most likely a dragon king. The massive golden star in the sky gradually disappeared, and the abnormal signs in the surroundings disappeared as the heavens and earth once again became peaceful. Only then did the countless people kneeling on the ground come back to their senses and hurriedly stand up. They did not know what had happened, and they only felt a powerful will descend, causing them to uncontrollably kneel on the ground. The leaders of the various factions looked towards Qing's direction, feeling incredibly shocked. They had all knelt in that direction, and those who had not knelt seemed to have been heavily injured. They were covered in blood and lay on the ground, and they would not be able to recover without a long period of time. Zhao Fu's consciousness came back, and he stood in the air and sensed the changes in himself. He could not describe it, but he felt that he was much stronger than before. Elsewhere, the black-clothed man standing on a circular pool took out a blood-red stone that gave off a source aura and threw it into the remaining pool. A blinding blood-red light shined out from the bottom of the pool, and the pool gradually turned blood-red. The black-clothed man continuously performed hand seals, causing the blood-red water to start to boil and spin, and a massive wave of energy spread out. The human world, which had returned to its peaceful state, once again went through a massive change. An extremely terrifying power spread out from the sky, and everyone felt as if they had fallen into icy water. Whether it was their bodies or souls, they all violently trembled. A blood-red vortex appeared above Qin. This blood-red vortex was only 10 meters wide, but soon became 10,000 meters wide and gave off a massive suction force. Standing in the air, Zhao Fu's hair stood on end as he felt an unprecedented sense of danger. He of the blood-red vortex had a feeling that the blood-red vortex was rushing towards him. The golden dragon cried out in shock. "Zhao Fu, it's a higher being. It was a certain almighty being who found your location through the origin mark that appeared just now. It seems like he wants to seize the origin mark on your body. You have to be careful. Although he can't personally come, his strength is still extremely terrifying." Zhao Fu understood and immediately hid the origin mark that Tuoba Qing had given him. He had never thought that it would cause such a thing, and now that that higher being had found him, there was no point in hiding his origin mark. The blood-red vortex gave off a massive suction force that covered Zhao Fu's body, wanting to suck Zhao Fu's body into it. Zhao Fu could not help but release his full strength and unleash his emperor's domain. A black barrier with dragon inscriptions floated out of his body to resist that massive suction force. "Your Majesty." Seeing that Zhao Fu was in danger, everyone hurried to Zhao Fu's side and prepared to help Zhao Fu resist that suction force. However, Zhao Fu hurriedly told them to stop because this was not something they could interfere with. That higher being's power was simply too terrifying, and even though they did not know how much power he had used, even with Zhao Fu's full strength, he was still slowly being sucked towards the blood-red vortex. As such, Zhao Fu told them to stop and evacuate everyone nearby, or else their lives would be in danger. Bai Qi and the others hurriedly obeyed and quickly left, evacuating all of the nearby residents. Boom! Zhao Fu completely exploded out with Qin Mark's power, and a black flame erupted around Zhao Fu's body as an incredibly terrifying aura exploded out from Zhao Fu's body. Xing! Zhao Fu took out the Death Disaster Sword and sent all of his power into it. The gray crystalline Death Disaster Sword exploded out with a chilling sword light, and Zhao Fu vigorously slashed out. A massive gray sword light gave off a ferocious wind of death as it slashed towards the blood-red vortex. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out, and something that shocked Zhao Fu happened. Zhao Fu had wanted to use this to stop the blood-red mist, but the sword chi was completely useless against the blood-red vortex. Instead, it caused the blood-red vortex to expand by 100,000 meters and explode out with an even more powerful suction force. Zhao Fu was continuously dragged towards the blood-red vortex by this terrifying suction force, and he could only unleash his emperor's domain, which had expanded to 100 meters, in order to defend against this suction force. This massive suction force caused trees to be uprooted, boulders to be sucked into the sky, and the ground to be peeled away. Even though it was incredibly terrifying, Zhao Fu was still able to defend against it. The black-clothed man's smile disappeared, and he slightly frowned as he slowly stretched out his hand and pressed down towards the spinning pool below. A powerful, formless energy entered the blood-red water. A massive hand giving off a terrifying aura slowly stretched out from the blood-red vortex in the sky above Qin's seal. The entire world seemed to tremble, and space-time became chaotic. This massive hand's power was the most terrifying thing Zhao Fu had ever seen. and even the current Zhao Fu felt a wave of terror. In the face of immense danger, Zhao Fu gripped the death disaster sword with both hands and roared as he sent all of his power into it. The Qin seal within his body continuously trembled, gathering the power of countless city lord seals. Whether they were great cities or basic cities, all of the power of 3,000 cities was gathered in this strike. Boom! Zhao Fu slashed out with all of his strength, and a gray sword light that was thousands of meters long, giving off dense, deathly aura, seemed to be able to split the sky. It left behind countless cracks as it slashed towards the massive hand. Chi! The massive gray sword light gave off destructive power as it slashed apart the massive hand, causing it to dissipate into blood-red chi, and it continued to slash towards the blood-red vortex. Under the ferocious attacks of the sword light, the massive blood-red vortex gradually shrank. Above the blood pool, the black-clothed man looked at the small wound on his arm, and a hint of anger appeared on his face. Chapter 854. The constantly shrinking blood-colored whirlpool suddenly expanded once more. The black-clothed man above the blood pool continued to form hand seals. His body emitted an intense blood-colored light as he slowly sank into the blood pool. The blood-red vortex in the sky expanded to 1,000 meters wide, and countless traces of blood-red water flowed out like a river pouring into the mortal world, giving off shocking sounds. As the blood-red water fell to the ground, it instantly inundated the ground, and all living creatures were killed. The blood-red water covered the surrounding 10 kilometers, giving off a dense stench of blood. Everything here was dyed with blood, and the scene was incredibly terrifying. At that moment, the blood-red water once again started to go through changes as if it was boiling. Bubbles started to appear, and traces of pure blood-red chi floated out. At the center of the blood-red water, the image of a man was condensed. The power that this image gave off was incredibly terrifying, and when it was formed, it was as if time and space had been frozen. That terrifying power was enough to suffocate people, and ordinary Stage 1 soldiers would explode and die. You lowly worm, do you know that you've angered this sovereign? If you kneel, this sovereign will let you die more comfortably. A low-grade person like you doesn't deserve to have an origin mark. The image stood in the air with its hands behind its back, and its voice was cold as it looked at Zhao Fu as if he was an ant. Under this power, Zhao Fu's body could not help but tremble. This image's power was simply too terrifying, and it surpassed even Tuoba Qing's power. No wonder she had wanted to leave. This was the power of a higher being. Even killing a god would not be a problem. Boom! An explosion sounded out as Zhao Fu used all of his strength to gather the power of the Qin seal. The Qin seal continuously trembled, gathering the power of countless cities. The city lords had long since sensed that a terrifying existence had descended in the Qin territory, so they all responded and gathered the power of their city lord seals towards the Qin seal. Zhao Fu's power reached its peak, and a ferocious aura flame rushed into the sky. His aura continuously rose, and it spread out like a wild gale, causing countless creatures to feel terror. The image disdainfully laughed and casually waved its hand. At that moment, Zhao Fu's body froze, and he felt a chill in his heart. He felt a massive wave of power rush towards him, and Zhao Fu did not hesitate to unleash his emperor's domain. Bang! A muffled explosion sounded out as Zhao Fu's body was sent flying by a formless energy, and the emperor's domain protecting him shattered. Zhao Fu's body crashed 1,000 meters away, and he felt as if his bones had been broken. He coughed up a mouthful of blood, and he felt incredibly powerless. How could this power be so great? The image laughed and took a step out, crossing 1,000 meters in an instant, and arrived in front of Zhao Fu. When the image stomped on the ground, it was as if a meteor had crashed into the ground. The ground cracked, and a corporeal shockwave rippled out. The 1,000 meters of ground instantly caved in, creating a crater that was dozens of meters deep and 1,000 meters wide. If Zhao Fu had been stomped on by this attack, he would have been heavily injured, if not killed. Zhao Fu had just dodged this attack, but before he could rejoice, the image, which had been standing 100 meters away, appeared behind Zhao Fu in the next second and raised its leg and kicked out. Bang! Zhao Fu's body flew out like a sandbag and heavily crashed into a small hill 1,000 meters away, shattering the hill and causing countless rocks to fly everywhere. With your power, it's impossible for you to stop this sovereign. If you kneel, this sovereign will give you a quick death. The image laughed mockingly, looking down on Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu powerlessly lay within a pile of rocks, his body covered with blood, and his aura was quite weak. The image's body blurred and appeared in front of Zhao Fu, and it tried to take him back. In its eyes, Zhao Fu could not resist at all. Suddenly, the image was given a big fright and hurriedly tried to retreat, but he was still sent flying by a massive force. He crashed hundreds of meters away, and a look of shock appeared on his face. A massive gray aura flowed out of Zhao Fu's body, causing the surrounding temperature to plummet. Gusts of cold wind started to blow, and an eerie and terrifying aura swept out like a flood. There seemed to be ghosts howling as well. Zhao Fu's body lost all of its color and became incredibly pale. His long hair became a gray-white color, and fangs grew out of his mouth. His hands became ghost-like claws, and his body gave off a terrifying ghostly power. The ground around him was unable to withstand it, and it started to crack. 6 paths of reincarnation power. How could a weakling like you control such a power? Sensing Zhao Fu's terrifying, eerie, and cold power, the image's expression fell, and he yelled at Zhao Fu. The 6 paths of reincarnation power was not something that a human could control. Even gods would not be able to stand stably, and yet this person had truly controlled it. Zhao Fu did not reply, and his body turned into a black blur that shot towards the image. This caused the image's expression to become serious, and it stretched out a hand toward Zhao Fu, causing countless traces of blood-red qi to gather on its arm. Boom! The image grabbed at the air, causing the air to explode as a 1,000-meter-wide, formless hand grabbed Zhao Fu's body. This power was incredibly terrifying, and even a mountain would be crushed by it. However, Zhao Fu gave a sharp howl as an even more powerful wave of ghostly qi exploded out from his body. Because the 6 paths of reincarnation power was too powerful, Zhao Fu's power started to go out of control, and his will started to become hazy. He was like an evil spirit, and he instantly broke free from the formless hand. He appeared in front of the illusory figure and punched out with immense power, sending the illusory figure flying hundreds of meters and crashing into a mountain wall. Countless cracks appeared on the mountain wall, and the illusory figure's body seemed to be embedded within. The image was infuriated. It had never been sent flying by such a low-level person before, and an even greater wave of power exploded out from the image's body. Boom! At that moment, Zhao Fu appeared in front of the image, and a sharp claw containing terrifying power pierced through the image's chest. The image did not expect this, and it could only hatefully stare at Zhao Fu as it gnashed its teeth and said, "You weakling, this sovereign won't let you off." The image's body gradually disappeared, and Zhao Fu coughed up a mouthful of blood. His body felt as if it was going to be torn into countless pieces, and blood flowed out from his skin. Zhao Fu wanted to stop the 6 paths demon image's power, but something unexpected happened. Ark! Zhao Fu howled as an eerie aura erupted out from his feet like a volcano, and the 9 underworlds will started to invade his body. Chapter 855. Boom! A shocking explosion sounded throughout the entire human world. When all of the soldiers' corpses opened their eyes, an ocean-like wave of Inchi rushed out from the depths of the 9 underworlds like a volcanic eruption, forming a massive pillar of Inchi that shot into the heavens. This pillar of Inchi was hundreds of thousands of kilometers wide and seemed to connect the heavens and the earth. The aura and shockwaves it gave off made it seem as if the heavens and earth were collapsing, and it was an incredibly shocking scene. In front of this pillar of Inchi, people felt incredibly small and insignificant, as if they were facing nature itself. It was a power that they could not resist. The Inchi continuously rushed into the sky, forming countless dark clouds that covered the entire sky before quickly spreading out. The temperature gradually became cold, and a chilling feeling spread out. The dark clouds continuously spread out, and soon they covered the entire human world. That cold, ghostly chi filled the heavens and earth, and the human world seemed to have lost all life. It became a gray-white world filled with a deathly aura, and the surroundings were filled with an eerie and terrifying aura. Sensing the Inchi that filled the heavens and earth, the spirits happily flew into the sky and wandered about. The ghosts excitedly gave off horrifying howls, and it became a world of ghosts. The fish scale, dark demon, and grassy worlds around the human world had just come back to their senses from the terrifying shockwaves from the celestial Emperor star's descent, and they felt incredibly fearful towards the human world. They did not know what was happening in the human world, but the willpower of the heavens and earth made them feel incredibly terrified. They would never be able to forget that power, and it would definitely become a nightmare for them. Even the dark demon world, which had always looked down on the human world, realized that they had been wrong. They had greatly underestimated the human world, and they were the dark demon world's greatest enemy. However, at that moment, a cold aura once again spread out from the human world. The people from the three worlds felt their hairs stand on end, and they nervously gulped. Looking at the Inchi from the human world that seemed to cover the heavens and earth, their bodies trembled in fear. Just what was happening in the human world. The will that gushed out from the depths of the 9 underworlds continuously eroded Zhao Fu's body. That feeling was as if cold air was pouring into his body, slowly tearing his body apart. Even his soul was being stripped away bit by bit. This feeling was naturally incomparably painful. Zhao Fu's six-path state was still there, and he still looked like a demon. The golden dragon in his body was also shocked. He didn't know what was happening to Zhao Fu, but he had a bad feeling about it. Suddenly, the will of the netherworld enveloped Zhao Fu's body, and then instantly brought Zhao Fu into the incomparably huge pillar of Inchi. At the very center of the Inchi pillar was the ghost seal formation. Before this, Zhao Fu and the golden dragon had sensed that something terrible was being nurtured here. At that time, because of various considerations, they did not stop it, but they did not expect such a strange change to occur. These changes were definitely caused by this place, and, of course, it was also because of the celestial Emperor star's descent. The Ghost King Seal had devoured a large amount of Zhao Fu's blood, and when the celestial Emperor star had descended, the changes had started. Now, Zhao Fu's body powerlessly floated within the pillar of Inchi, and the netherworlds will continuously eroded Zhao Fu's body and soul. The intense pain caused Zhao Fu's voice to become hoarse. Within the Ghost World Pearl, the six paths demon images, who were bound by countless chains, felt a wave of terror and madly roared as they struggled. However, they were powerless, and wounds appeared on their bodies as black blood was sucked out by a formless energy and fused into Zhao Fu's bloodline. The purest Inchi within the pillar of Inchi flooded into Zhao Fu's body, and a massive amount of Inchi caused Zhao Fu to once again go through some sort of transformation. On the ground, the ghost soldiers pushed open the lids of their coffins and walked out. They looked up at Zhao Fu in the sky, their gray-white eyes filled with determination. "We greet our emperor." The voices of the 25 million Een soldiers also rang out like thunder. All of the Een soldiers knelt on one knee and bowed their heads in an extremely respectful and humble manner. At that moment, the countless ghosts, and even the city god temple's black and white impermanences and minotaurs felt an incredibly powerful might. This might came from their souls, and they were unable to resist at all. All of the ghosts simultaneously knelt down towards the pillar of Inchi, looking incredibly respectful but also filled with fear. Roar! At that moment, a dragon's roar sounded throughout the heavens and earth. Under the pillar of Enshi, a gray ghost dragon that looked like it had crawled out from the depths of hell gave off boundless underworld intent and an emperor's aura that could cause all ghosts to submit, and it drilled into Zhao Fu's body. Boom! A shocking explosion sounded out as the massive pillar of Enshi instantly expanded by dozens of times, and a boundless ocean of Enshi continuously flowed into Zhao Fu's body. Rays of gray light flashed past mountains, oceans, the human world, the surrounding worlds, and the surrounding worlds. Sensing this coldness, everyone's bodies froze, and they could not help but look towards the human world. A gray star that looked like a moon, giving off boundless underworld intent and a terrifying pressure that seemed to cause the entire world to submit, slowly descended from the sky. At that moment, the Tiandao sect's elder's expression fell as he looked into the distance with a sharp gaze. That disciple had just ordered people to gather information on the celestial emperor's star, and seeing his master's expression become serious, he asked curiously, "What is it, master?" The elder could not remain calm anymore, and his hand trembled as he said, "There's a nether emperor star descending in that direction." Hearing this, the disciple was quite shocked. The nether emperor star is the death race's supreme emperor star, and it's the fourth one to appear in 100 years. The death race should be very happy now. Who would have thought that a celestial emperor star would also descend, and it's in the same direction? What a coincidence! Because of how special the death race was, nether emperor stars were even rarer than celestial emperor stars. Above the heaven-awakened world was the godly spirit world, and below it was the ghost world. The ghost world was not any smaller than the godly spirit world, and it was where countless creatures resided. It was an ancient world that had appeared at the same time as the heaven-awakened world, and the ghost world relied on the heaven-awakened world to exist. Chapter 856. Compared to the godly spirit world, the connection between the ghost world and the heaven-awakened world was much tighter, and there were not as many restrictions. In fact, it was possible to travel freely through certain things, but this was not possible in the godly spirit world. There were many death races in the heaven-awakened world, but they were different from the underworld races. Even though they were all races that used Enshi as their core, there were still some differences. The underworld races had bloodlines from ancient times until now, and they were all extremely pure and contained a trace of Enshi. Even though most of the death races had Enshi within their bodies and their bloodlines were En-attributed, compared to the underworld races, their bloodlines were quite chaotic and weak. Only those with the purest underworld bloodlines could awaken a nether emperor star. Because of their bloodlines, the death races in the heaven-awakened world were quite rare. Even the ghost world, there were not many of them. As the supreme emperor star of the death race, it was birthed from countless traces of Enshi and was a supreme existence in the underworld. It had the innate ability to make all ghosts submit, and ordinary ghosts could not resist at all. This was because the suppression came from the depths of their souls, and it also received a massive amount of fate. Even though there were many death race empires in the heaven-awakened world, there were not many empires with pure bloodlines. There were only a few empires that could awaken a nether emperor star, and according to the direction that his master was pointing at, only one empire could do this. Master, recently, the relationship between the death race and the human race has been quite good. Now that the ghost god empire has awakened a nether emperor star, should we do something? The disciple thought that he understood his master's intentions and gave a confident smile as he asked. The elder shook his head, his expression still serious as he replied, "It's not the ghost god empire. It's the boundary region that awakened a nether emperor star." What? The disciple was quite shocked. Putting aside the fact that the celestial emperor star had descended in the boundary region, now this nether emperor star had also appeared in the boundary region. This was simply too shocking. Two emperor stars descending in a boundary region was something that had never happened before. Moreover, the nether emperor star's requirements were even stricter than the celestial emperor stars. Not only did it require an imperial bloodline, but also required a pure underworld bloodline. How could a boundary region have these requirements? The disciple could not understand why. At that moment, the elder said something that shocked him even more. The aura that this Nether Emperor star gives off is extremely similar to the aura that the Celestial Emperor star gave off. The disciple was incredibly shocked, and his voice trembled as he said, "Master, that was impossible. Before, the Celestial Emperor star was the human race's supreme Emperor star, and only those with pure human race bloodlines could give birth to it. However, the Nether Emperor star required even purer underworld bloodlines. These two were the supreme Emperor stars of the two races, and ordinary empires would not be able to give birth to them. For that person to be able to awaken one was already a massive amount of fate. Awakening the supreme Emperor stars of two races was something that had never happened before in the history of the Heaven-awakened world. Even if some people obtained heaven-defying fortune and had two fate stars, they would at most be ordinary stars. However, these were two supreme Emperor stars. Moreover, there was no way to resolve the issue of bloodlines. One was from the human race, and the other was from the underworld, and they both needed to be incredibly pure. Only then would they receive the fate of a large race. A person awakening two supreme Emperor stars was something that ordinary people could not imagine, and they could not understand what was going on. The elder shook his head with a serious expression, unable to answer his disciple's question. This matter was indeed quite shocking. "Master, what should we do now?" The disciple deeply breathed in and calmed himself down before asking his master. This was definitely something that would shake the entire heaven-awakened world. No. The descent of a celestial Emperor star was already a huge matter, and now that two Emperor stars had descended, it was even more shocking. The elder thought for a moment before saying, "Gather all of the elders." Hearing this, the disciple quickly left and informed the various elders to start a meeting. Within Heaven's will, a few people reported the matter of two fate stars to the leader of Heaven's will, the fate sovereign, who had the most authority. A young woman wearing a white dress and looking ethereal slowly walked over from a distance. The countless people around her automatically made way for her and lowered their heads respectfully. Although this young woman looked young, it was impossible to tell how old she was. As the owner of Heaven's will, her power naturally surpassed that of ordinary people. She normally only stayed in Heaven's will and rarely left, and she rarely performed divinations. However, she was viewed by the top factions in the Heaven-awakened world as someone they should befriend. The elders who had just coughed up blood walked over to her and respectfully bowed as they called out, "Fate's sovereign." The young woman lightly nodded and said in a clear and elegant voice, "Tell me everything in detail." Hearing this, the elders told the young woman everything that had happened, from when they had discovered the Celestial Emperor star's trajectory, to when they had seen the two stars, to when they had been swept out by the two stars like bugs. The young woman looked quite surprised, and she walked over to the Heaven's Secrets instrument. Everyone else could not help but look at the young woman, feeling quite surprised and curious. After all, when the sixth Celestial Emperor star had descended, even the Fate's Sovereign had not acted. It seemed that she was going to personally act, which was quite rare. As a Fate's Sovereign, her power was not something they could compare to, and they trusted that the Fate's Sovereign would know what was going on. The young woman came to the Heaven's Secrets instrument, and the Heaven's Secrets quickly started to spin. The young woman's consciousness slowly entered, following the traces of those people, and she soon saw a golden star. Before, those people's consciousnesses had been like bugs, but in comparison, the Fate's Sovereign's consciousness was like a massive beast. Seeing this massive star giving off golden light, the young woman became quite serious and careful. She slowly withstood the massive might as she approached, and when she saw the other blood-red star, her pupils constricted, and she could not help but feel quite shocked. The young woman could tell at a glance that this star was a peerless calamity formed from the Myrtle Imperial Star and the Chaos Demon Star. The calamity and fiendish aura it contained caused even her to feel quite shocked. This person actually had two fate stars. One was the Celestial Emperor star, and the other was the Chaos Imperial Star. In the future, this person would definitely cause heaven-shaking calamities and change the entire heaven-awakened world. His potential was simply unimaginable. The young woman's expression became incredibly serious as she stood there, staring at the two stars, trying to see where Zhao Fu's fate would go. At that moment, the two stars sensed the young woman's existence and gave off an even more intense light, and a massive power once again blew out like a tornado. Chapter 857. Boom! A world-rending sound rang out, and the chaos heaven's secrets violently trembled. Sensing this power, a look of shock appeared on the young woman's face. She turned her head to the side and saw a star that looked like a ghostly moon slowly appear. Bang! A muffled sound rang out, and the young girl's consciousness was sent flying. Previously, she could barely resist the hurricane caused by the two stars, but facing three stars, she had no way of fighting back. Her consciousness returned to her body, and her body was blasted back by a formless energy. She coughed up a large mouthful of blood, causing everyone present to feel quite shocked. They had never thought that even their powerful and respected fate sovereign would be injured, and they had no way of knowing that person's fate. However, with their fate sovereign's abilities, it shouldn't be a problem. They believed that the fate sovereign had the ability to do so, but the outcome was the opposite of what they expected. They still didn't understand what was going on. Suddenly, they all sensed something and looked into the distance. They also discovered that the Nether Emperor Star had descended, and they felt that the aura was quite similar to the Celestial Emperor Star. They could not help but wonder if he had awakened a third star. They immediately looked incredibly shocked and could not believe it. At this time, they hurriedly helped the fallen Fate Sovereign up and asked her, "Fate Sovereign, what's going on? Could it be that this Imperial Star?" The young woman coughed up a mouthful of blood and looked into the distance with a look of bewilderment. After a while, she said, "This matter is classified as Heaven's Will's top secret, and no one is allowed to talk about it. All Heaven's Will elders quickly head to the Heaven's Will Pavilion." Hearing this, everyone was shocked and guessed what was going on. However, none of them dared to say anything, as they understood how important this matter was. The elders quickly gathered in the Heaven's Will Pavilion. In the Heavenly Tome Pavilion, the scholarly middle-aged man who was chatting and laughing with the crowd suddenly had his smile fade. He looked into the distance sternly. Seeing the middle-aged man like this, the others did not understand and lightly laughed as they teased him. "Pavilion Master, it's not like you're the Pavilion Master. Why are you suddenly so serious? Could it be that another Emperor Star has descended?" The scholarly middle-aged man retracted his gaze and said with a solemn tone, Another Emperor Star has descended, but it's the Death Race's Nether Emperor Star." Hearing his words, the others felt quite shocked. They had never thought that two Emperor Stars would descend in a row. However, this was a big matter and could be recorded in books. A person laughed as he said, "Pavilion Master, wasn't that a good thing?" Since the two Emperor Stars descended so close to each other, perhaps there is some connection between them. Perhaps there will be a battle between two emperors. Everyone else smiled as they looked at the scholarly middle-aged man. However, the scholarly middle-aged man's expression was still quite serious, and there was not a trace of smile on his face as he said, "The Heavenly Book Pavilion can't have anything to do with this matter. This matter can only be mentioned and cannot be discussed in detail." Seeing how serious the Pavilion Master was, the others did not understand. However, they still did as they were told. "My lord, my lord, my lord, not good, that blood mass is mutating again." The Heaven Spirit Financial Group's higher-ups had just given the order to pay the most attention to the blood group and forbade anyone from discussing this matter. They then started to discuss how to deal with the Celestial Emperor Star. But at this moment, a terrified voice entered their ears, causing them to feel displeased. But when they heard the content of the voice, their expressions changed. At the same time, they could not help but look into the distance. Sensing the eerie ripples, a look of shock appeared on their faces. Could it be that this has something to do with him? They hurriedly came to a room and looked at the orb of blood floating in the air. It gave off a ghostly light, and an eerie aura spread out, causing them to shiver. It was as if they were being stared at by a demon. Zhao Fu looked at the orb of blood floating in the air. It really has something to do with him. Even the major figures with calm hearts felt incredibly shocked. This person had once again exceeded their expectations, and 2 Emperor stars had descended on his body. If they had not seen this for themselves, they would not have believed it either. The order was given out. Anyone who dares to reveal anything about the blood mass will be killed without mercy. After receiving the last order, the people in charge understood how important this matter was and decided to hide it in their hearts forever. However, another order was given, and they once again gathered. Hearing the contents of the order, they looked at each other, their eyes filled with indescribable shock. This time, anyone who revealed anything would be killed. They had once again underestimated the importance of the blood mass. They did not say anything. They treated this matter as their most important secret and could not tell anyone, not even if they died. Within the palace filled with ghostly chi, the death race expert had been envious of the human race for a celestial emperor star to descend. However, sensing the cold ripples in the distance, his expression fell. Even though it was a nether emperor star that had descended, he did not feel happy at all. It was not just because this nether emperor star's aura was quite similar to the celestial emperor star. As someone from the death race, he could clearly sense that this nether emperor star was not very friendly to the death race. It gave off a pure ghost world aura, and it was chaotic, violent, and slaughtering. This aura felt like the 6 paths demon images, but how was that possible? He could not understand what was going on, and the malice it gave off made him unable to feel happy. It was not just him. All of the higher beings from the death race looked at the nether emperor star, giving off the 6 paths demon images aura with serious and unsightly expressions. None of them were happy. The god race, demon race, and devil race, who had been desperately searching for the owner of the celestial emperor star, suddenly fell silent, as if nothing had happened. Of course, the 3 races' minor figures did not know what was going on, but the higher beings could not help but become serious and treat this matter seriously. The celestial emperor star, which had become the hottest topic of discussion, suddenly stopped. Everyone felt that this was quite strange, and no one understood what had happened. However, from a might above, they could tell that this was not an ordinary matter. Roar, 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 roar. Within the depths of the ghost world, 6 massive and furious roars sounded throughout the entire ghost world, causing the heavens and earth to go through changes. Inchi became chaotic, and billions of ghosts howled in fear. All the people in the ghost world looked incredibly shocked. This was because they knew what sort of existence these roars belonged to. It was the most terrifying existence in the ghost world. The 6 paths demon images responsible for guarding the 6 paths of reincarnation. Just what is going on? Why are the 6 paths demon images so angry? The underworld's top-tier factions started to investigate this matter, as this was not a small matter. The 6 paths demon images were responsible for guarding the 6 paths of reincarnation, and they had discovered a nether emperor star with the 6 paths demon images aura in the Heaven Awakened world. Chapter 858. Back at Qin, within the massive pillar of Inchi, Zhao Fu's body had gone through some changes. He no longer looked like a ghost, and he now looked like a normal human. There were no fangs in his mouth, and his hands did not become claws. He did not look as savage, and his body was not as pale as before. It was now only slightly pale, but also somewhat blood-red. His gray-white hair did not change. The biggest change was in Zhao Fu's eyes. Before, Zhao Fu's left eye had 4 pupils, 2 blood-red, 1 white, and 1 golden, and each of them gave off a different aura. The blood-red was evil and murderous, the white was gentle, and the golden was noble. Now, another gray pupil appeared in Zhao Fu's left eye. This gray pupil looked like a ghost's eye, and it gave off an eerie aura. Ordinary people would not dare to look at it directly, or they would have nightmares for a few days. Zhao Fu looked at Zhao Fu's left eye with a gray pupil. Apart from this, Zhao Fu's right eye also went through some changes. Before, Zhao Fu's right eye had 3 pupils stacked on top of each other, but now it looked like 4 pupils were stacked on top of each other. There was also an additional layer of gray, and the 6 gray dots around the eye had become larger. A ghost dragon appeared within Zhao Fu's body. This ghost dragon was gray and looked like a normal dragon, but it had 4 eyes and a bone horn on its head. It gave off the eeriness and terror of ghosts, and it was incredibly powerful and terrifying. The 6 paths demon images within the Ghost World Pearl also looked quite weak and did not look as ferocious and evil as before. They seemed to be heavily injured and would take a long time to recover. Zhao Fu opened his terrifying eyes and stood in the air. His aura was quite strange. It was like a human's and also like a ghost's, and it was hard to tell which one it was. However, this aura was incredibly powerful and gave off the might of an emperor. Now, Zhao Fu had finally awakened. The Nether Emperor star in the sky slowly disappeared, and the abnormal signs also disappeared. The massive pillar of Yin Qi gradually shrank, and the dark clouds that covered the human world gradually receded. The Yin Qi that filled the heavens and earth also gradually dissipated, and a few rays of sunlight pierced through the dissipating dark clouds. Warmth once again returned to the human world, and life began to recover. Everyone finally breathed a sigh of relief and looked at Qin. They found that no one would believe that Qin was fine. After what had happened to the Celestial Emperor star and the Nether Emperor star, everyone's hearts tensed up and they waited. Hopefully, something would happen again. Their hearts would not be able to take any more fright. After a while, they still saw no changes. The sun shone on the earth, the birds chirped cheerfully in the trees, and the gentle breeze caressed their faces. Only then did they finally relax. What made them even more furious was that it was not just them who knelt. All of their subjects and soldiers knelt to Qin. This made them feel like they were about to go crazy, and they hated Qin to death. Out of the human world's 8 legatees, only Tina Pendragon had been able to resist that will, but she had paid the price of being heavily injured. With the human world's current strength, it would be very difficult for anyone to resist it. After all, even some of the grassy race's true kings could not resist it, let alone those who were not even kings. This matter not only shook the human world, but the fish scale world, dark demon world, and grassy world were also shaken. The grassy world changed its original strategy. Before, they had been waiting for the heaven domain boundary to disappear so that they could invade the human world. They had treated the human world like a sheep, but now it seemed that the human world was a ferocious tiger. If things went wrong, they would be in danger. The dark demon world was also sent into an uproar, and they completely gave up on looking down on the human world. Almost all of the factions started to discuss how to face the human world in the future. The world protector, Mo Chi, once again entered the human world and re-evaluated it. He was not as arrogant as before, as there was an existence even more terrifying than him here. The fish-scale world deeply regretted invading the human world. Not only had they lost so many people, but they had also caused so much trouble. In the future, there would definitely be a war between the human world and the fish-scale world, and thinking about that, their expressions became quite unsightly. Chapter 859. Zhao Fu stood in the air and looked at his body. He did not know how to describe his changes. His bloodline had become quite strange, and it was like that of the human race, but also like that of the death race. Because it was related to fusing with the 6 paths demon image's bloodline, it was quite difficult to explain. His current appearance was completely fixed and could not be changed. His body originally contained some 6 paths of reincarnation power, and it was not because of the 6 paths demon images, but because Zhao Fu himself had 6 paths of reincarnation power. The 6 paths of reincarnation power was one of the most powerful powers in the underworld, and it could suppress all low-grade powers. Even the Ghost King that Zhao Fu had encountered before could not compare to the 6 paths of reincarnation power. Zhao Fu also looked at the two dragons on his body. One was filled with nobility and gave off a powerful emperor's aura, while the other was filled with eeriness and gave off an emperor's might. Zhao Fu could not help but ask the golden dragon, "What's going on?" Out of the 4 fate dragons that Zhao Fu had, the golden dragon was the most special. Not only did it have its own consciousness, but it could also think for itself and knew more than Zhao Fu. The golden dragon shook his head and said, "I'm not too sure about the changes that you've caused. The gathering of the 3 stars was just a key. From a moment you awakened the Chaos Imperial Star, your fate was no longer controlled by Heaven's secrets. After fusing with me in the Heaven Murder Empire's fate and obtaining the Heaven Murder bloodline, your uncertainties became even stronger. Being able to awaken 2 Emperor Stars is mainly because of your own accumulation of fate. Of course, there's also something else, which is the origin mark. Without the origin mark's help, it would have been quite difficult for you to awaken 2 Emperor Stars. You should thank that young woman for giving you such a precious origin mark. Now you understand how important the origin mark is. Even almighty existences can't help but want to steal it. The origin race is just too rare, and they've disappeared since the primordial era. That girl's identity is far more complicated than you think." After hearing the golden dragon's words, Zhao Fu could not help but sigh. Thinking about Tuoba Qing, he wondered how she was doing. At the same time, Zhao Fu understood that he had to hide his origin mark in the future and not reveal any of its aura. He had already offended a higher being. Just this higher being's clone was more powerful than ordinary godly spirits, and Zhao Fu had only been able to defeat him after using the 6 Paths Demon Image's power. If his main body had descended and used all of his abilities, all of Great Qin might have been destroyed at his hands. Back then, he had not been able to hide his appearance. Moreover, if Fu Zhao dynasty, he would not be able to the Imperial Union. He would not Fu spirit. That higher being's power was simply too terrifying, and it posed a great threat to Zhao Fu. However, Qin Xin was here and could not move. If that higher being found him, Qin Xin would have to fight to the death. Apart from establishing a kingdom, he also had to recover the 6 Paths Demon Image's power. Because the 6 Paths Demon Images had awakened the Nether Emperor Star, not only did they look incredibly weak, but even much of their origin power had been absorbed by Zhao Fu. Only by recovering the 6 Paths Demon Image's power would they be able to resist that higher being. After thinking about it, Zhao Fu looked at the ghost soldiers kneeling on the ground, and Zhao Fu said, "Rise." All of the ghost soldiers simultaneously stood up and stood there as if they were listening to Zhao Fu's orders. They were now the most loyal soldiers, and even if Zhao Fu wanted them all to die, they would not hesitate to do so. The Ghost King seal and the Ghost Seal formation had already shown signs of melting at the beginning of the mutation. The Yinchi Valley, the Ghost King seal, the tombstone, the military flag, the Yinchi formation, and many other items fused together. The final product was the ghost dragon that had drilled into his body. Even though the Ghost King seal had disappeared, Zhao Fu had the power to control 10 million ghost soldiers. This was because the Ghost King seal relied on the Spectral Dragon's power, and the Ghost King seal had fused into the Spectral Dragon. Zhao Fu had never thought that such a thing would be born, and he did not know if it was a good or bad thing, but it had become a half-ghost, half-human bloodline. At that moment, Bai Qi hurried over with his generals. Facing the descent of the Emperor Star and the higher being generals, they all felt incredibly powerless. Now that things had concluded, they were incredibly worried about Zhao Fu's safety, so they hurried over. "Your Majesty, are you all right?" The generals came to Zhao Fu's side and looked at Zhao Fu with concern. They could sense that Zhao Fu's aura had greatly changed, and it now gave off a cold and gloomy feeling. Zhao Fu smiled and said, "I'm fine. Let's go back together." Following this, Zhao Fu brought everyone back to Qin City. He first arranged for some people to deal with the issue of defense, especially in the Vietnamese region. They had to keep an eye on the movements of the other 3 countries, and they also had to speed up the construction of the Great Wall and clear out the regions. Qin City was just a bit away from establishing a kingdom, and they could not be held back by EXP. After clearing out so many regions, even if they did not level up, they would be able to do so soon. During this period of time, they tried to keep a low profile and avoid any battles. Everyone listened to Zhao Fu's orders and sped up the various matters. After dealing with these matters, Zhao Fu called Li Si over and told him to prepare an excellent coffin made of extreme grading wood. Hearing Zhao Fu's words, Li Si was given a big fright and hurriedly asked about Zhao Fu's condition. This was only natural. Anyone who heard a sovereign king say that he would prepare a coffin for him would be shocked. Seeing that Li Si had misunderstood, Zhao Fu smiled and explained. The 6 paths demon images require a large amount of yin qi to recover, and that valley has become a special treasure ground that can connect to the 9 underworlds and absorb large amounts of yin qi. Zhao Fu will be staying there for a while, and coffins are the best tools to preserve yin qi and have nurturing effects. After hearing Zhao Fu's explanation, Li Si felt at ease and ordered people to gather the best yin wood to prepare a yin wood coffin for Zhao Fu. Of course, Zhao Fu did not stay in the yin qi valley every day. He would only go at night and absorb large amounts of yin qi to help the 6 paths demon images recover. During the day, he would stay in Qin City to take care of various matters. After resting for a few days, a large group of women came to see Zhao Fu. These women were all Vietnamese players, and when Zhao Fu had attacked Vietnam, he had not only destroyed 5 nation legatees, but he had also destroyed many factions. Most of these women had been brought back along the way and had not been captured. On the other hand, because the women from the nation legatees all had large amounts of phoenix qi and had been attacked, Zhao Fu had brought back many of them. There were naturally relatives from the various nation legatees, such as mothers, little sisters, aunts, cousins, and so on. Chapter 860. Before, they had wept and looked at Zhao Fu angrily or hatefully. Even though the women they had captured were quite good-looking, Zhao Fu did not touch just any woman. Seeing them cry, Zhao Fu lost interest. He did not have to refine a nation armament, so he did not have to touch them. He ordered people to bring them to his harem, and Zhao Fu chose to forget about them. A few days had passed, and Zhao Fu did not know why they had suddenly wanted to see him. He did not want to agree, as there was no need to waste time on them. However, after thinking about it, he had already made them his concubines, so they were technically his people. Zhao Fu thought about it and agreed, and he had them enter the palace. Following this, 120 or so women walked in and respectfully bowed to Zhao Fu, making Zhao Fu feel quite surprised. The woman in the lead was an elegant middle-aged woman, and she smiled as she said, "Your Majesty, we've thought about it for a few days and are willing to serve you. We have thought about it for a few days and are willing to serve you. But can you let go of our families and loved ones? We will definitely serve you wholeheartedly." Zhao Fu understood and lightly laughed. They had accepted their fate and understood that Vietnam was not a match for Qin, and it was only a matter of time before it was destroyed. As such, they wanted to think about their families in the future. After the 2 Emperor stars had awakened, many factions wanted to join Qin, but Zhao Fu only accepted system factions. Zhao Fu did not accept player factions, as he did not feel at ease using them. Zhao Fu never used players. However, it was only a matter of time before he accepted players. After all, it was impossible for Qin to be just a few players. This was something that was very unlikely. Zhao Fu lightly nodded and said, "If your families and loved ones are willing to submit, don't worry, I won't harm them." This caused the Vietnamese women to feel delighted, and the woman in the lead's face became slightly red as she looked at Zhao Fu and took off her clothes as she said, "Your Majesty, we'll serve you now." The other women's faces became slightly red, and they started to slowly take off their clothes. At that moment, 2 little girls rushed in. One of them had 9 tails and was holding a paper kite as she happily ran over and called out, "Your Majesty, I'm very happy. Come and play kite with me." Behind him was a green-haired, green-eyed girl who also held a kite and shyly followed behind, looking at Zhao Fu expectantly. The events that had just occurred caused the women's faces to become even redder. Looking at the two young girls, they awkwardly stood there. Zhao Fu let them leave first, then brought Little Nine and Little Rose to a flat area. At the same time, he brought the Dark Forest Moon Wolf, Fat Cat, and Wyvern. Because there were many things to do, Zhao Fu did not have much time to spend with them. Little Nine and Little Rose sat on the Dark Forest Moon Wolf and Wyvern, their little hands holding onto the string as they happily laughed. The kite flew in the sky, and Wyvern circled around them. Zhao Fu didn't mind and sat down on the green grass, enjoying the cool summer breeze while Fat Cat continued to lazily lay by the side. Life was quite leisurely, and it was quite rare to have such days. In actuality, being an ordinary person was quite a good choice, just like how Yun, who was one of the richest people in China, wanted to be an employee with a salary of tens of thousands of yuan. After returning to the real world, the family leaders came to discuss the matter of the factions joining Qin. There were also some player factions that had joined Qin, and they wanted to know when they would be able to join Qin. Even though Qin had acknowledged their identities, they were still excluded by Qin in the Heaven Awakened world. They had not even been able to take a single step into Qin's territory, making them feel quite uneasy. As such, they had also come. Now, Zhao Fu was no longer the same Zhao Fu from before. As soon as he stepped into the banquet, he became the center of attention. Countless people politely and amicably walked over to greet Zhao Fu or flatter him. Almost all of the people who had come were old foxes. Zhao Fu understood that their friendliness and flattery towards him was all because of Great Qin's legatee. If he didn't have Great Qin's legatee support, they wouldn't even bother to look at him. That was indeed the case. Without Prince Qin's support, Zhao Fu would just be an unremarkable minor figure. How could he have the right to stand with them? How could he speak to such grand figures? At the very least, he would have to lower his voice. In actuality, some people felt quite disdainful toward Zhao Fu because Zhao Fu was nothing. All of this was because of Qin's prince's charity. Without Qin's prince, Zhao Fu would just be a worm that could be casually stomped to death. There were many people who thought this way, but because they feared Qin's prince, they hid it deep within their hearts. They tried to curry favor with Zhao Fu and treated him like a good friend for many years. However, none of them would have thought that he was the Qin's prince that they feared. However, Zhao Fu did not have any intentions of revealing this information, so he politely replied. Right now, Zhao Fu did not want them to enter Qin's prince, so he would at least wait until the Heaven Awakened world devoured the real world. When that time came, he would have complete control over them and would not have to worry about them rebelling. Only then would he feel at ease using them. When they lowered their prideful heads and humbly knelt on the ground and found out that they were Prince Qin's prince that they could not sleep at night, they did not know how to react. Right now, everyone was talking about Prince Qin's prince, and no one had paid attention to Prince Qin's representative, Zhao Fu. Prince Qin's representative was a nice thing to say, but to put it bluntly, he was Prince Qin's chess piece and a puppet that Prince Qin could casually throw away. How could such an unremarkable and pitiful figure compare to the infamous Qin? When Zhao Fu's true identity was revealed, no one knew what they were thinking. Zhao Fu quickly concluded the banquet. Now, the conditions for accepting a faction were not as strict as before. If anyone wanted to join Qin's prince, they had to show their sincerity. Soon, many women, treasures, and resources were sent to Qin's prince as gifts to express their loyalty. Zhao Fu saw many famous celebrities, models, and popular singers among them. They were all offered to Prince Qin's prince, and it seemed that they were all willing and had not been forced. Zhao Fu had no idea what they were thinking. Now that they were so popular and had good looks and figures, they would most likely have a better choice. However, they were willing to jump into the fire pit and become Prince Qin's unremarkable concubines. Chapter 861. A singer that Zhao Fu had some impression of quickly stopped Zhao Fu and said in a small voice, "Do you want to die? How dare you talk about Prince Qin like that? We know he's not good, but we have no other choice. We all know that the real world is about to be destroyed, and he can give us safety and a prosperous life. In actuality, I have a good choice, but I think the world will belong to Prince Qin sooner or later. Even though we'll become someone else's women, with Prince Chen's lustful personality, he'll take us away and have fun with us. I know that you men have a virgin complex, and you think that women are not clean after being touched by other men. That's why you have to be virgins in order to be loved. Since we'll be taken away by him sooner or later, we might as well take the initiative. Perhaps we'll get a better identity. And if we're taken away, adding on the fact that we're not clean, our fates will be quite miserable. We'll most likely be ignored, and we won't even know when we die. Zhao Fu didn't know what to say, and he realized that he was Prince Chen. Why did they say that they were jumping into a fire pit and wasting their best years? Who would say that about him? Was he really as bad as they said he was? Cough, cough. Zhao Fu dryly coughed and said to her, in actuality, Prince Chen is quite a good person. He cares about the people, is fair with punishments, and treats generals well. Also, stop talking. I know that you're good at flattering Prince Chen. I've long since seen through people like you. A young woman said bluntly. Zhao Fu was at a loss for words. Just then, she had indeed said good things about him to save some face. All right, stop talking. Your name is Zhao Fu, right? When will you take us to Prince Chen? A woman with an excellent figure, who looked like she was a model, said impatiently. This woman looked quite arrogant, and Zhao Fu could not help but say, I'm not sure if I'm going to take you there yet. The women who did not want to pay any attention to Zhao Fu were all startled and looked at Zhao Fu. Another woman coldly harumphed and said, Do you know what the consequences are? With Great Chen's legatee's lustful and licentious personality, he definitely needs us. You're just a minor figure under his command, and if you don't deliver us to him, you might die. Also, I clearly heard what you said about him just then, so you'd better be tactful. This woman had a seductive figure, and Zhao Fu remembered that she had starred in a few movies. At first, he had a good impression of her, but now he had been looked down upon and threatened by her. He had wanted to persuade them, but now he had brought trouble upon himself. However, he was Great Chen's legatee, so who could he threaten? Zhao Fu said. Zhao Fu could not help but harumphed and said, Prince of Zhao Fu of Prince Zhao. The singer Fu could only say this. Zhao Fu said, Prince, I said, he said, I, Prince Fu. I know you have a good heart, but this is our choice. Please help us. Although we know he's not good, the world is in chaos now. Without a strong power to protect us, we'll end up worse. Maybe we'll be used as tools for countless men to vent their anger. We won't even have the right to be human. You're in Qi now. You have great power, but you don't know the dangers of the world. Chaotic times are terrifying. Everything is voluntary. No matter what happens, we won't blame you. If you don't help us, you will destroy us. Zhao Fu felt helpless. He felt that it wasn't easy to be a good person, so he could only agree. He might have to bear the stigma of being a lecher again, but this was a good deed, and he was fulfilling their wishes. He could only suffer a bit and accept them. Hearing Zhao Fu agree, the women looked at Zhao Fu gratefully. They did not know what had changed after knowing Zhao Fu's identity. However, Zhao Fu did not bring them to Qin yet, because a mysterious faction had sent something to Zhao Fu. They did not reveal their identities, and it was a sword. The sword was 1 meter long and 2 fingers wide. It was completely black and had golden inscriptions on it. It gave off an ancient and heavy aura, but did not seem sharp. Zhao Fu felt that this sword was definitely not ordinary, as it gave off a heavy and benevolent sword intent. This sword intent was incredibly powerful and ancient, and even epic grade swords in the Heaven Awakened world could not compare to it. This sword intent could rival a Saint armament. Who would give such a precious sword to him? Zhao Fu could not understand, but Zhao Fu soon found out about this sword. It was the second-ranked clear sable sword. The Xin Yuan sword was a legendary sword, while the clear sable sword was a real sword. If it wasn't for the Xin Yuan sword, it would definitely be China's #1 sword. The forger of this sword was the spring and autumn period blacksmith Oyezi, together with his wife Zhu Jun, his daughter Mo Xia, and his junior brother Ganjiang, son-in-law, Prince Yunchang of Yu, on Mount Zhonglu. Oyezi was definitely a grand master of swordsmithing in the ancient times, and he was a godly figure. His swordsmithing ability was something that no one could surpass, and he was the #1 swordsmithing master throughout the ages. Most people would have heard of his name. Jean Lu is also known as Jean Lu. Jean Lu was both a sword and knife. This completely black and flawless long sword made people feel not its sharpness, but its magnanimity and benevolence. It was like a deep and perceptive black eye in the heavens, watching every move of the kings and vassals. With a virtuous ruler and a sword by his side, the country would prosper. The ruler was incompetent, the sword was abandoned, and the country was ruined. Chapter 862. The eyes were not terrifying and did not contain any malice or joy. They just calmly looked at Zhao Fu and did not react at all. They just silently looked at Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu definitely felt uncomfortable being stared at like this. Even though this sword did not contain any malice, Zhao Fu did not like it. He did not know why that mysterious faction had given him such a benevolent sword. They definitely knew that he was not a benevolent person. So what was their purpose in giving him this sword? Zhao Fu really couldn't figure it out. However, this sword did not suit him, and Zhao Fu did not want to use it either. It felt very uncomfortable, and this was the first time that Zhao Fu did not want to use a sword. Moreover, its grade was not low, and the clear sable sword could be said to be one of China's peerlessly famous swords. However, Zhao Fu did not want to use it. It was not that he disliked this sword. It was just that his path was different, and he could give it to the right person. In actuality, not all of Zhao Fu's swords were darkness-type swords. For example, the Seraph Sword and the Royal Wood Sword leaned towards light, but that was only because they leaned towards light. Zhao Fu's Emperor's power was mainly Commander's power, so he could control both light and darkness. However, this sword contained a benevolent sword intent, and Zhao Fu did not have a benevolent heart, so he was not used to using it. Zhao Fu put the sword back into the sword box and wanted to see if he could give it to someone else. However, Zhao Fu was surprised to find that the eye had not disappeared. It felt as if it was in his heart, calmly looking at him. What was going on? Didn't he put the sword back? Why did he still have this feeling? Seeing this, Zhao Fu felt quite startled and immediately handed the sword to the bodyguard beside him. He had him pick up the clear sable sword and see if it would be the same as him. However, after the bodyguard picked up the sword, he shook his head, indicating that he did not feel anything. Moreover, the sword gave him the feeling that it was just an ordinary sword. To be more precise, it was like a wooden sword. There was no murderous intent, nor was there any intention to hurt anyone. Zhao Fu was still in disbelief and had him hand the sword to another person. He even had that person swing the sword, but that person felt the same as the previous person. Now, Zhao Fu was finally sure that he was the only one who had that feeling. It was likely that his identity had been seen through by the sword. That made sense. Zhao Fu's method could fool others, but could not fool these items. This was because items only cared about their essence. Also, could this sword be sent by that mysterious force to disgust me? Zhao Fu couldn't help but wonder why the mysterious organization would give him such a sword. Zhao Fu couldn't help but wonder who this mysterious organization was. According to history, the clear sable sword had been passed down through many hands. During the Tang dynasty, Xuerengui had obtained it, and it was passed down to the southern Song dynasty's famous general, Yu Fei. After Yu Fei and his father were killed, the clear sable sword's whereabouts were unknown. Zhao Fu felt that this was not true, as the clear sable sword had been a king's sword from the very beginning. Let alone ordinary people, even ordinary generals could not use it, and only kings could receive the clear sable sword's acknowledgement. At least, that was what Zhao Fu thought, but he did not know if this was true or not. As such, Zhao Fu put the sword away and looked at the celebrities as he said, "I'll give you one last chance. Don't regret it, or don't blame me." Hearing this, some people gratefully said to Zhao Fu, "Thank you." Some were not friendly, such as the female model. She coldly harumphed and said to Zhao Fu, "It's best if you don't say bad things about us, or else I'll tell everyone about what you said about Emperor Qin. I'm sure everyone will get what they want." If no one is up to no good, with our beauty and special identity, ordinary people like you must be fantasizing about us when you watch the TV shows and movies we act in. I'm sure Emperor Qin will like us, as long as you don't try to do anything bad. Zhao Fu didn't know what to say. In the past, he had indeed fantasized about these celebrities, but this was something that any ordinary person would do. Moreover, this was true for both men and women. In the end, Zhao Fu could only helplessly bring them to Qin City. Because all of the regions had been opened up, it was not a problem for them to come and go. At the same time, Zhao Fu gave them reality fruits and brought their bodies into the heaven-awakened world. You're all in Qin City now. Through the teleportation channel, Zhao Fu brought the women to Qin City. Looking at the tall buildings, wide streets, bustling crowds, and raucous sounds, they were completely dumbfounded by how lively and bustling Qin City was. It was the first time they had seen such a scene, and it was like an imperial capital in ancient times. This was something that could not be replicated on television. Zhao Fu ordered people to bring them to the imperial palace. Within a large hall, Zhao Fu was about to give them a title before bringing them to the imperial harem. However, at that moment, Zhao Fu thought back to that model's cold arrogance and disdain, and he stretched out his hand and lightly lifted her chin. Now that they were in the Qin Imperial Palace, Zhao Fu did not hold back at all. However, Zhao Fu's actions gave the women quite a fright. They were gifts to Emperor Qin, which meant that they were Emperor Qin's women, while Zhao Fu was just a minor figure under Emperor Qin's command. Yet, he dared to make a move against them. Zhao Fu was simply too daring. What's more, he was in the Imperial Palace. Did he really not know what was good for him? He was simply too stupid. They didn't notice that the people around them were too respectful toward Zhao Fu. That model stretched out her hand and coldly pushed Zhao Fu's hand away as she said angrily, "What are you trying to do with your paws?" Seeing this, the singer hurriedly walked over and tried to persuade Zhao Fu, saying, "No one else saw this. It's fine if it's just us, but do you want to die? How dare you make a move against us? That Emperor Qin will kill you. Also, Miss Zhang, I'm sure you don't want Emperor Qin to know about this either." Everyone pretended that nothing had happened, or else they would all be in trouble. Everyone just waited for Emperor Qin's arrival and didn't want anything else to happen. Zhao Fu couldn't help but lightly laugh, and the model called Miss Zhang glared at Zhao Fu. She didn't want to pursue this matter anymore, because if Emperor Qin heard about this, it would be bad for her. However, at that moment, Zhao Fu stretched out his hand and stroked the singer's cheek. This time, all of the women sucked in a breath of cold air. Zhao Fu was simply too daring. Not only had he flirted with Emperor Qin's woman once, but he had also flirted with her a second time, and he was going even further. Chapter 863. No man could tolerate it when it came to women. What's more, Prince Qin was famous for being cruel and cold-blooded, so Zhao Fu would definitely die a miserable death. Facing Zhao Fu's actions, the female singer blushed and hurriedly stepped back to avoid Zhao Fu's hand. She looked at Zhao Fu angrily and said, "You're going too far." Seeing this, Zhao Fu couldn't help but laugh as he said, "You're all my women. Can't I touch you?" No one understood what Zhao Fu was saying, and they could not understand why he was referring to them as his women. At that moment, a group of palace maids walked in and bowed to Zhao Fu as they respectfully called out, "Your Highness." The 30 or so women finally understood and looked at Zhao Fu in shock. They hadn't expected that Zhao Fu was Prince Qin. The contrast was too big. The two people who were so different from each other were actually the same person. No one had guessed that his true identity was so terrifying. Thinking about what had just happened, the women's faces paled, and they hurriedly knelt on the ground as they cried out, "Your Highness, we're sorry for what happened just now. We really didn't know who you were." Zhao Fu did not mind too much and lightly nodded. Right now, the female model was the one who was the most terrified. Thinking about how she had treated Great Qin's legatee, with his savage personality, she might be tortured to death. It was said that Qin was extremely cruel, and he had skinned her, broken her bones, cut her flesh, and even fed her to animals. The female model was so scared that she burst into tears and threw herself on a Zhao Fu's lap. "Your Highness, I'm sorry. I really didn't know you were Prince Qin. I was wrong. Please let me go. I'll serve you with all my heart." Seeing how terrified she was, Zhao Fu lightly nodded. Zhao Fu had experienced this sort of thing many times, and seeing that Zhao Fu didn't blame her, the female model felt at ease. Zhao Fu turned to look at the female singer. Looking at her slim figure and large breasts, the female singer's face became red and she lowered her head. Following this, Zhao Fu conferred titles on them and ordered people to take them away to resolve this matter. After returning to the heaven-awakened world, what surprised Zhao Fu was that the eye had not disappeared. It was as if it had been planted in Zhao Fu's heart, and it was calmly looking at Zhao Fu. Sensing this gaze, Zhao Fu couldn't help but frown. Zhao Fu couldn't do anything about this, so he asked the golden dragon how he could remove this eye from his heart. At the same time, Zhao Fu told the golden dragon about the eye's origins. After hearing this, the golden dragon thought for a moment before saying that it didn't know. However, it said that this eye was very beneficial. This eye is called the heart eye, and it's a formless eye that can be planted into one's thoughts. With this eye, one can sense all hostility and prevent others from prying into one's mind. It's also very beneficial to one's cultivation. In actuality, if Zhao Fu wanted to get rid of it, he would have to rely on himself. As long as he made a big change in his thoughts, the eye would automatically disappear or completely fuse into his thoughts. Zhao Fu could only put this matter aside for now and turn his attention back to Qin's matters. Now, Qin's Great Wall and clearing out the region were quickly progressing. Before he knew it, more than a month had passed. A little more than 1/3 of the region had been cleared, providing a large number of people and experience for Qin. On the other side, the Great Wall was almost completed. Because the founding of the kingdom was approaching, everything should be based on the national system. In other words, Qin needed to formally establish a national system, and it wouldn't exist in the form of a faction. Every region should have villages and cities. They couldn't be squeezed together and compressed living space. The entire territory should be covered with villages. This would also stabilize fate and make Qin's foundation more stable. Moreover, every region must be well planned, with villages as the foundation, towns as the center, and cities as the center. That way, the cities could be the highest management center of the region. The cities would be responsible for managing the towns, and the towns would be responsible for managing the villages. This way, layer by layer, an effective administrative system would be formed. There weren't many small cities here, so great cities could temporarily replace them. Before, Zhao Fu had divided every region into a state, and now he had to divide every state into counties. According to the size of the area, a state could be divided into 5 to 8 counties. Each county would be divided into many small towns, and the small towns would be divided into many villages. These regions had to be carefully divided into small areas. This wasn't an easy task, and it had to be planned in advance. It couldn't wait until after the founding of the kingdom. This was mainly handed over to the Minister of Internal Affairs, who gathered people to draw detailed maps of each region, and then divided them step by step. At the same time, with the establishment of the kingdom, a large number of talents were needed, which meant that a large number of people were needed to be officials. To meet the needs of a large number of talents, Zhao Fu was going to hold a large-scale imperial examination. This imperial examination was divided into a civil examination and a military examination. It would select both civil and military officials. There was no age limit, no race limit, and no requirement to be a student of the academy. Anyone who had the ability could participate in the imperial examination and become an official. This was because Qin didn't only have one race. Other than the indigenous people of Qin, there were all kinds of different races and some foreign races. Now, there were many indigenous people of the Yu Kingdom. Zhao Fu didn't implement a racial system, and all races were equal. Therefore, there was no race limit for officials. Moreover, there was no age limit, as talented people weren't necessarily young. Just because some people were older didn't mean that they didn't have talent. There was also no requirement to be a student of the academy. Even though there were 120 academies in Qin, and they were all led by Rising Qin Academy and had 2 million or so students, it would be too limiting to only select people from there. Qin had conquered many regions and system main cities, and these system main cities didn't lack people with culture and knowledge. As such, Zhao Fu expanded the scope and gathered the most outstanding people to become officials in Qin. Only then would they be able to help Qin develop in an orderly manner. This was also the case for choosing military officials. Not only were there no requirements to be a student of the academy or a soldier, but anyone with the ability could participate in the military examination. Of course, leading soldiers to battle was a very dangerous thing, and one couldn't be careless at all. Military officials had to have a certain amount of battle experience, and they would be promoted from the army. Others had to have extraordinary martial prowess and be slowly nurtured. A notice was sent out to the entire Great Qin domain, announcing the start of the imperial examination. The commoners reacted the most intensely. Being able to become an official naturally made many people excited and happy, and there were many people participating. The examination system was split into layers of selection, and each layer was harsher than the one before. Only the most suitable people would be chosen from a large number of people, and this required strict checks and strict supervision. Chapter 864. The court examinations were held on a large platform. Scholars from all over the world had already gathered there. They wore long robes and were in high spirits. There were both men and women among them. They were all gathered together, waiting for the court examinations to begin. "Your Majesty has arrived." As a loud cry sounded out, Zhao Fu walked out with his people. Because the palace examination was quite formal, Zhao Fu wore a black golden dragon robe, but he did not wear his crown. Apart from the palace maids, there were also Li Si, Shang Yang, Meng Haoran, Shang Wanwan and Li Muqing. There was also Wu Zetian. She was quite familiar with the imperial examination, as it had been established during the Tang dynasty. She had personally created the military examination, and she was able to control both civil and military affairs. As such, Zhao Fu had brought her here. As a modern person, Zhao Fu was not familiar with these things, and he knew that he did not have the ability to do so. As such, he had brought many people here to manage the imperial examination together. "Greetings, Your Majesty." Hearing that Zhao Fu had arrived, all of the students knelt on the ground and called out in unison, their voices incredibly loud. Zhao Fu came to the throne, and even though his voice was not loud, it sounded out in all directions as he said mysteriously, "You may rise." Hearing this, the countless students got up, and some of them could not help but look up, wanting to see how their Majesty was like. They were incredibly silent, and they were filled with respect toward Zhao Fu. Following this, the palace examination began, and Zhao Fu and the other ministers sat down, waiting for the palace examination to end. "Do you have any candidates in mind?" Zhao Fu sat on the throne and looked at the students writing as he asked the ministers. As the principal of the Rising Qin Academy, Meng Haoran was the first to step out and smiled as he said, "Your Majesty." This minister has faith in all of the students. These words were spoken as if he had not said anything at all, and Zhao Fu could only look at the others. Li Si stepped out and bowed as he said, "Your Majesty, the three people I favor are Pei Zishu, Cui Tong, and Sun Dong. I have tested the three of them. They are very capable and have a unique theory of governing a country. They may have some doubts about Qin, but there is no problem for them to be officials." These words caused Meng Haoran to feel a bit displeased. Li Si hadn't mentioned anyone from the institute, so he couldn't help but say, "Minister Li, is there no one in the academy that you like?" Hearing Meng Haoran's words, Li Si could not help but add, "Bei Wei, Lu Xuanxi, and Ma Puzhong are not bad either." A smile appeared on Meng Haoran's face as he politely greeted Li Si. Li Muqing and Shang Wanwan couldn't help but sigh when they heard the names of men. Although His Highness supported equality between men and women, With the restoration of the ancient system, the idea of favoring women gradually emerged. Now, most of the Qin people lived like the Aborigines in ancient times, and they were used to the discrimination against women. Their goal was to change all of this. Li Muqing stepped forwards and said, "Your Highness, I feel that Yu Xian, Zhang Sun Zhu, and Bei Rou are not bad either. I feel that Yu Xian, Zhang Sun Zhu, and Bei Rou are not bad either. They are not inferior to men, especially Yu Xian, who even composed the poem Snow in the Stream. It is clear that she is brimming with talent, far surpassing ordinary scholars." These words naturally made Li Si and Meng Haoran feel quite displeased, while Shang Yang inwardly laughed. He did not have any objections, as he was the ruler. Following this, everyone else expressed their opinions, and Zhao Fu had to admit that there were already factions within the Qin Academy. Wu Zetian looked at Zhao Fu flirtatiously, looking quite alluring and not expressing any objections. As she interacted with Zhao Fu day and night, Wu Zetian became much more alluring than before. She no longer directly called Zhao Fu by his name, and she instead called him Your Highness or Husband. She had completely given her heart and body to Zhao Fu. Facing Zhao Fu's gaze, Wu Zetian flirtatiously smiled and said, "Everyone, there's no need to argue. Once the imperial examination results are out, we'll know who's stronger." These words were indeed quite true. Strength was the deciding factor in everything. As a political power, factions were unavoidable, and as long as they were properly managed, strength was the most important factor. Time gradually passed, and soon, the imperial examination was over. All of the examination papers were collected and given to the various ministers to review, and the best essays were chosen to be given to the higher-ups. Zhao Fu would also read it. The content of the article was quite important, and Zhao Fu had some understanding of how to govern a country. As for the military selection, it was much simpler and more violent. It was just a martial arts competition, as the commanders were directly selected from the army. They were by Qi, Wang Jian, Wei Liao, by Shihan, Sun Han Xiang, and the other generals. The military examination was to choose the person with the highest martial arts, and this could be seen just by fighting. Some special professions had bonuses, and in order to be fair, there was only one type of profession which would depend on one's own strength. Zhao Fu also went to take a look. There were many stages for both sides to fight, and in order to avoid casualties, they mostly used wooden items. However, if one sent their cultivation power into wooden items, they would not be inferior to sharp weapons, so there were many medical personnel here. Zhao Fu also went to take a look. Watching them fight was naturally more interesting than the imperial examination. However, there were very few women in the general side. In the previous imperial examination, men made up 60% of the people, while women made up 40%. In the military examination, men made up 90% of the people, while women only made up 10%. Perhaps women were naturally at a disadvantage in terms of fighting, and facing the ferocity of men, most women would not be able to resist. However, the 10% of women who dared to participate in the military examination were all incredibly valiant, and they were not inferior to men at all. Most of them were from Outlanders, and some were from other races. On the third day, after many rounds of selection, quite a few geniuses were selected. The first place in the imperial examination was Yu Xian, a woman recommended by Li Muqing. The military examination was a person from the Ice-Fire City, and he was called Lu Xiao. With his control over ice and fire, it was quite difficult for him to obtain first place. The competition in the military examination was quite intense, and those with bloodlines and cultivation had slight advantage. As such, Zhao Fu personally summoned those who had performed well in the military examination and held a banquet to reward them. Finally, there was the matter of the Empress. The most suitable candidate for the Empress was naturally Nu Lu. She had Nuwa's legacy, and she was also a player. She also had a gentle personality, so she was quite suitable. Chapter 865. In actuality, Wu Zetian was not bad either. However, She was a woman from the Tang dynasty and was the empress, so she could not become Qin's empress. Wu Zetian understood this, so she did not fight for this position. Wu Zetian had long since been made a concubine by Zhao Fu, and she was now one of Zhao Fu's most beloved concubines. Wu Zetian was already quite satisfied with this. Some ministers suggested choosing other women as empresses, such as Daphne. She was now the city lord of the Maurya city and the successor of India's #1 dynasty. This was a legatee, not a legatee. After all, the legatee, Shama, had been defeated by Great Qin, and even the Maurya dynasty had been conquered by Great Qin. Now, the Maurya city belonged to Great Qin, and Daphne was the legatee. With her, as the empress, it would be much easier to conquer India in the future. This was what some ministers thought. Some people supported Evil Spirit as the empress. She was the successor of the Vile dynasty, and was now the city lord of the Demon King's capital. With her, as the empress, it would be easier to conquer the Dark Demon world, and the Dark Demon fate would be closer to Qin. Everyone had different opinions, and there were also different people who supported this. Some people even suggested making the Flower Fairy an empress. After all, she was a fairy, and if an emperor made a fairy an empress, she would be blessed by the heavens. This made Zhao Fu feel quite speechless. Zhao Fu had not even made the pure Flower Fairy a concubine, yet they wanted Zhao Fu to make her an empress. Some people suggested making the Water Goddess an empress, which had never happened before in Chinese history. Qin would also be protected by godly spirits, which would be quite useful to Qin. At the same time, some people suggested making by Shihan, Sun Hanxiang, Wei Qing, and Su Liuyi empresses. They were all generals and were gifts from the heavens. If they became Qin's empresses, it would greatly increase Qin's military might. It could increase the offensive nature of Qin's fate, and it could also stabilize Qin's fate. It could also make it easier to conquer and devour the fate of other countries, as Qin was a country that attacked. Some people said that Tuoba Qing would be the empress. With how noble her bloodline was, no one would be able to compare to her. The Golden Dragon also agreed with this statement. As the empress of a country, she had a great influence on the country. Even the once terrifying Heaven Murder Empire had not been able to become the empress with her original bloodline. This was probably something that had rarely happened since ancient times. What surprised Zhao Fu was that Xinru also had a small group of supporters. It was the first time Zhao Fu had seen her blush. In the end, Zhao Fu still did not decide who to make the empress. He also expressed that this matter should not be discussed in the future, and he would make his own decision. Time continued to slowly pass, and Qin enthusiastically prepared for various matters. In the blink of an eye, 2 months had passed. It was now autumn, and the summer had passed. The heat had disappeared, and the weather had become slightly cool. The leaves were no longer lush and green, and they seemed to be declining and desolate. This was autumn. Roar! A domineering and majestic dragon's roar suddenly sounded throughout the entire human world. At that moment, clouds swirled as a powerful might spread from Qin to the entire world. Rays of golden light descended from the sky, and golden clouds floated towards Qin. Beautiful celestial music sounded out as countless auspicious beasts' images appeared in the sky and happily gathered towards Qin. Sensing these shocking changes, the entire human world stopped what they were doing and looked towards Qin. They felt a wave of bitterness and shock as they muttered to themselves, "Qin has established a kingdom." The news that Qin had established a kingdom immediately shocked the entire world. Now that Qin was the first to establish a kingdom, all parties began to discuss it intensely. Ordinary people also participated in the heated discussion and talked about it excitedly. After such a long time, a force had finally established a kingdom, and they saw the establishment of the Qin Empire with their own eyes. Although many forces had expected that Qin would soon establish a kingdom, now that they saw Qin establish a kingdom with their own eyes, how could they feel good? Qin was so far ahead of them that they felt powerless and afraid. Everyone continued to look towards Qin. Looking at the many strange phenomena that had occurred during the establishment of a kingdom and waiting to see if there would be any other changes, the whole world's attention was on Qin. Looking back at Qin, Zhao Fu was already standing on the prayer platform, wearing a black golden dragon robe and a crown on his head, and he was enthroned as the emperor. Qin's city heart continuously trembled, and a powerful black pillar of light shot into the sky. Traces of black aura rose up from the ground and from Qin's residence, drifting towards the powerful black pillar of light. Zhao Fu stood on the prayer platform by himself and looked at the black pillar of light. As more and more fate gathered in Qin, a black cloud formed from fate appeared in the sky. This black cloud slowly spread out, covering the surrounding 10,000 kilometers in the blink of an eye, giving off a powerful sense of suppression. All of Qin's residents happily knelt down. No one could be happier than them when Qin established a kingdom. After all, they were the residents of Qin. Zhao Fu's body, which was standing on the prayer platform, was lifted up by a formless wave of fate, and he floated towards the black pillar of light before fusing into it. Boom! A massive explosion shook the surroundings as Zhao Fu's body entered the black pillar of light. The light that the pillar gave off was even more intense than before, and the black clouds in the sky went through massive changes. They formed a massive vortex, and the terrifying might that it gave off shook everything. Within the pillar of light, Zhao Fu was cleansed by the massive Qin's fate. Whether it was his bloodline, aura, or soul, they all went through changes. The Qin seal slowly floated out of Zhao Fu's body and turned into a ray of black light as it shot towards the massive vortex in the sky. Boom! As soon as the Qin seal entered the black vortex, it exploded, turning into countless motes of black light that fused into the massive vortex. The black vortex gave off an even more terrifying aura, and even more fate flooded into the sky from the ground. The black clouds that covered 10,000 kilometers instantly spread to 100,000 kilometers, and the noble and domineering might was even more intense than before. Roar! 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 9 dragons' roars sounded out as 9 savage-looking black dragons swam within the black clouds. Sometimes they revealed shiny black dragon scales, sometimes powerful dragon claws, and sometimes ferocious dragon heads. As the 9 black dragons appeared, that massive might became even more powerful, and the legatees all felt this power, causing their expressions to become quite grim. Boom! Chapter 866. This large seal was black and gold, and it was as big as 2 palms. There were 9 domineering and savage black dragons carved on it, looking as if they were alive. The large seal gave off an intense black light and gave off a supreme king's might. When the big seal was completely formed, a black light wave spread to the whole territory of Qin, and the whole territory of Qin was covered in black light. Countless Qins, people who were kneeling on the ground, felt a force healing their bodies. Some of their illnesses were getting better, and some of their powers were getting stronger. The sky outside Qin City was still filled with golden light and auspicious clouds, accompanied by celestial music. At this moment, golden flowers began to fall, making the entire world incredibly beautiful, as if it was a golden dreamland. After the seal in the sky completely merged, the city heart below exploded with a powerful wave, and a black storm spread throughout the entire Qin City. The city heart gave off boundless black light, and 9 30-centimeter long black dragons gradually appeared, circling around the city heart. The nation armaments next to the city heart absorbed a large amount of fate and became even more powerful. Notification: Qin City has been upgraded to a barren city. You have met the conditions to establish a country. Notification: the Qin Empire was established. Notification: the Qin Empire was the first country to be established and was blessed by the great luck of the human world. Notification: you have conquered 520 regions. Your Qin Empire has obtained 520 region power, and your barony kingdom has been promoted to a rank 5 barony kingdom. Notification: as the imperial prince of the Qin Empire, you have officially become a king and have received a large amount of fate. You have obtained the Qin Empire's King's Power and the Qin Empire's King Profession. Notification: you have already obtained the King's Power and King's Profession, so you cannot obtain them all at once. You now have Emperor's Power, and the King's Power and King's Profession have fused together, strengthening your Emperor's Power and King's Profession. Notification: as the first human to establish a nation, you will receive additional rewards. Note: only the first 3 to establish a nation will receive rewards. Notification: you have obtained 100 great cities, 200 basic cities, 400 towns, and 2,400 villages. These are all city creation stones that have fused with Qin aura and will automatically become Qin cities and villages. Notification: now that you've established an empire, you've started working as an official. Notification: you can build a country now, but you can build an army. Notification: if you obtain the power of the kingdom's boundary, you can build a great wall to protect your territory. Your great wall will receive the power of the kingdom and become incredibly sturdy. As the prompts sounded in his mind, Zhao Fu couldn't help but smile. The vision in the sky gradually disappeared. Now the Qin Empire could officially become the Qin Empire. Zhao Fu couldn't be called His Highness, but His Majesty, because Zhao Fu was now the real king. The Qin seal in the sky slowly descended and re-entered Zhao Fu's body. Now, this Qin seal couldn't be called the Qin City Seal anymore, but the Qin Royal Seal. It controlled the highest authority of the entire Qin state, and it also had the king's power. Now that he had become a true king, Zhao Fu's power had greatly increased. The most important thing was his bloodline. Before, Zhao Fu's bloodline was already a level 17 sovereign bloodline, and after the Celestial Emperor Star and Nether Emperor Star had descended, Zhao Fu's bloodline had been greatly affected. Now that he had become a true king, Zhao Fu's bloodline had become a level 18 sovereign bloodline. A level 18 sovereign bloodline was far more powerful than an ordinary sovereign bloodline. Ignoring all other reasons, just based on the level, Zhao Fu's sovereign bloodline had a massive advantage. Now, Zhao Fu landed back on the Heaven Prayer platform and carefully looked at the system announcements. These were the system announcements for establishing a kingdom, and he couldn't just casually glance through them. First, the Qin city was now a barony royal city. Because the Qin state was only a barony kingdom, its royal city was naturally a barony royal city. The following were the stats of the Qin royal city. Village name: Qin Royal City. Epic level: Barony Royal City, level 5. Village area: 729,400 square kilometers. Village territory: 62421,800 square kilometers. Popular support: 86. Special stats: territory crop output plus 260%, territory crop growth time minus 260%, population limit plus 165%, resident stats randomly plus 20, soldier stats plus 25%, population attraction plus 200%, high-grade attraction plus 200%. Subsidiary village limit: 896930 subordinate villages: Logue Village, Jean Village, Doran Village, Lee Family Village, Wolf Village, Ferocious Tiger Village. From the city stats, it could be seen that the Barony Royal City did not have an EXP bar. This meant that leveling up no longer required EXP and instead required conquering regions. The fourth system announcement stated that Qin City had conquered 520 regions and obtained 520 region power. It had also leveled up into a level 5 barony kingdom. Kingdoms were split into level 1 to level 9, then barony kingdoms, marquisate kingdoms, dukedom kingdoms, royal kingdoms, and so on. Kingdom leveling up did not rely on EXP, but on conquering regions. The more regions they conquered, the faster they leveled up. Qin City had conquered 500 or so regions, so it was naturally a level 5 barony kingdom. As the royal city, Qin City no longer required EXP and instead required region power. This meant that the kingdom's level was the same as the city's level. Qin City was now a level 5 barony royal city, so Qin City was naturally a level 5 barony kingdom. If they wanted to quickly level up, they would have to conquer more regions. The more regions they had, the higher the kingdom's level would be. The fewer regions they had, the lower the kingdom's level would be. As such, in future battles, territory was incredibly important. It could allow one to quickly level up, but it could also cause one to quickly lose levels. The more regions one lost, the more levels one would lose. Not needing EXP was quite good as well. The massive amounts of EXP could be distributed to the various cities and villages, allowing them to quickly level up. That way, Qin City would have more and more cities. Following this, the system announcement stated that Zhao Fu had obtained the king's power and king's profession long ago. He had obtained the king armament shard from defeating the mysterious skeleton in the underground region, and now he had the emperor's profession and king's power. Zhao Fu did not care much about the king's power, and looking at the system announcement that it could increase his emperor's power, he felt that this was quite good. Zhao Fu carefully sensed his body's power and found that it had indeed become a bit stronger. Following this, Zhao Fu had never thought that there would be such generous rewards. 100 great cities, 200 basic cities, 400 towns, and 2,400 villages. This was quite a pleasant surprise for Zhao Fu. Just the great cities and basic cities alone had 300 cities, as well as so many towns and villages. These were all free, so Zhao Fu was naturally quite happy. The Kingdom Foundation rewards were only given to the first 3 kingdoms, and Qin City was the first. Zhao Fu wondered who the second and third kingdoms would be, but they would most likely also receive good rewards. Chapter 867. The first was the official positions, which were split into military officials and civil officials. All officials of the Qin Empire could wield seals, which meant that they could obtain official seals. These official seals naturally increased the power of the Qin Empire, and they were also very powerful. They were similar to City Lord seals, but as Qin's official seals, even if others stole them, they would not be able to use them. Only people who had been appointed by Qin could use them. Before, Zhao Fu had split the states into counties. Each county had its own county seal, and each state had its own province seal. 10 provinces were nobility seals, 100 provinces were marquis seals, 1,000 provinces were public seals, and 10,000 provinces were sovereign seals. A county seal's power was comparable to a basic city's. A province seal was comparable to a great city's. A noble seal was comparable to a level 5 great city's. A marquis seal was comparable to a capital city's, and a duke seal was comparable to a barony city's. Now that Great Qin had cleared out 520 regions, they had been split into 520 states. They had 2,846 counties, which meant that they had 2,846 county seals, and 520 states had 520 state seals. After that, they had 52 marquis seals and 5 marquis seals. Thinking about it like that, Great Qin's strength had gone through massive changes, and it had grown to a terrifying level in an instant. These were just the benefits from establishing a kingdom. Great Qin's previous strength had not been taken into account. It could be said that after establishing a kingdom, no one dared to offend Great Qin. However, these were only civil official seals, and they were mainly responsible for internal affairs and not for conquering. As such, they could only be used within Qin's territory. They could not be used in regions that did not belong to Qin. They were not as good as City Lord seals, which could be used at any time. However, these civil official seals could be used for defense, and with them protecting Great Qin, Zhao Fu would not have to worry about anyone attacking. Even though these civil official seals could not be used for conquering, there was another type of seal that could rival civil officials and military officials. Civil officials were responsible for internal affairs, while military officials were responsible for conquering. As long as there were 100,000 soldiers, they could receive a basic general seal, which could rival a basic city seal. 1,000,000 soldiers could receive a general seal, which could rival a great city seal. 10,000,000 soldiers could receive a general seal, which could rival a capital city seal. If they had 100,000,000 soldiers, they would be given a marquis general seal, and their strength would be comparable to a barony king city. If they had 1 billion soldiers, they would also be given a marquis general seal, and their strength would be comparable to a marquis king city. Now, Qin had 200 million soldiers, and he had 2,000 minor general seals, 200 senior general seals, 20 senior general seals, and 2 marquis general seals. This was the number of military official seals, and it was quite terrifying. As a general seal, it was not restricted by civil official seals and could be used no matter where it was. However, there was also a limit, and that was the number of soldiers. A country could only have 1/10 of its total population, and the extra soldiers would not be recognized. If there was no such limit, Qin would be able to turn the 1 billion or so people into soldiers, and they would not have to fight. Instead, they would be able to obtain over 10,000 general seals. If that happened, no one would be able to survive, and they would all be instantly destroyed by Qin. Now, Qin controlled 520 regions, and its total population was 1.8 billion. It had 200 million soldiers, and there were 170 million Stage 1 soldiers, 2 million Stage 2 soldiers, 700,000 Stage 3 soldiers, and 30,000 Stage 4 soldiers. It controlled 520 regions, 3 capital cities, 2,628 great cities, 521 cities, 860 towns, and 39,489 villages. Great Qin also had 68,000 corps soul soldiers and 1,400 corps soul commanders. Great Qin also had 2,700 wyverns, and 2,300 wyverns could participate in battle. Now, Great Qin's population was 1.8 billion people, and if they took 10% of its soldiers, they would have 180 million soldiers. However, that would be 1,800 basic general seals, 180 advanced general seals, 18 advanced general seals, and 1 marquis general seal. If it added on general seals and official seals, it would have 4,649 official seals that could rival basic city seals and 700 or so great city seals. This was the benefit of having official seals after establishing a kingdom, and it was quite shocking. Even if one did not do anything, they would still have such great power. At the same time, because these were official seals and not city seals, these 2 seals could be used together. It could be said that one could simultaneously use the power of 2 seals without any conflicts. After talking about official seals, it was time to talk about core. This was another powerful ability that only a kingdom could have. A level 1 barony could create 5 core, and each core could contain 1 million soldiers. The core would also level up as the kingdom leveled up, and each level up could increase the limit by 200,000 soldiers. At the same time, each level up a kingdom could create 2 core. In other words, each level up meant that a kingdom could create 2 more core. Now, that Qin was a level 5 barony kingdom. It could have 13 core, and each core could contain 2 million soldiers. In total, the 13 core could have 26 million soldiers. Previously, it was said that government positions and core were incredibly powerful, and it was because of them that countries became terrifying. The higher-ups also explained the use of government positions, such as how terrifying they were. Since the core was as important as government positions, it naturally had its own special uses. Special Effect 1, Core Strength. All core soldiers can obtain this buff, which increases all stats by 10% and increases all stats by 5%. Special Effect 2, Core Courage. This buff greatly increases morale and makes soldiers' minds resolute. They will not fear death and will valiantly kill enemies. Resistance to illusions and magic formations plus 200%. Special Effect 3, Light of the Core. This effect increases the recovery speed of the soldiers and has a certain healing effect. Special Effect 4, Core Might. The core has an innate sense of suppression that can cause ordinary soldiers' hearts to tremble. Special Effect 5, Core Shield. All core soldiers can explode out with power and condense a powerful defensive barrier that can protect the core. This barrier's defense is stronger than ordinary energy barriers, and it also has core stats buffs. Special Effect 6, Core Formation. All soldiers can give off their own soldier aura, which can fuse to form powerful weapons or beasts. However, all soldiers must work together and cannot have any other thoughts. Chapter 868. These were the 7 main attributes of a corps. The attributes were roughly the same as general armament's attributes, and they gave the corps all sorts of bonuses, increasing each soldier's strength. However, general armaments did not have a deterrence effect, while corps had its own deterrence effect. There were also the 6th and 7th effects, which are the greatest effects of a corps. The first few effects were the advantages of a corps, and they were very destructive to ordinary soldiers. This was because there were simply too many advantages, and the soldiers of a corps were definitely stronger than ordinary soldiers. The 6th effect, corps formation, was quite similar to the soldier aura formation effect of a general armament, but there was a big difference. Even though soldiers gave off countless auras and gathered them together to form powerful weapons or terrifying beasts, general armaments had their own condensing effects. However, general armaments had their own condensation effects. When holding a general armament and using soldier aura condensation, countless traces of soldier aura would be controlled by the general armament. The wielder of the general armament would be able to condense the soldier aura into any shape, and this had nothing to do with soldiers. However, corps was different. It required all soldiers to work together, which meant that all soldiers had to focus and control the soldier aura formation. This required a lot of time and coordination. General armaments relied on the individual commander, while corps relied on the collective. Comparing the two, general armaments were naturally more convenient. However, general armaments were not so easy to obtain, and even now, the Qin Empire only had 10 general armaments. Any kingdom could have a corps. In actuality, even though corps was quite troublesome, it was still better than soldier aura formation. The purpose of a corps was to gather all of the soldiers' thoughts together. If their willpower was strong and they were united, the things that they condensed would naturally be stronger than general armaments. Of course, if their willpower was weak and they could not work together, it would be normal for them to not be able to condense anything. Before, when comparing a city lord to 100,000 stage 1 soldiers, the answer would be the city lord. After all, the city lord had a city lord seal, and if 100,000 soldiers could not gather their attacks together, they would not be able to threaten the city lord. Moreover, if the city lord did not choose to fight the 100,000 soldiers head-on and instead chose to launch sneak attacks, the 100,000 soldiers might be killed by the city lord. They would not be a match for the city lord at all, and they might even be completely destroyed. If the city lord did not choose to face the 100,000 soldiers head-on and instead chose to launch sneak attacks, the 100,000 soldiers might be killed by the city lord. They would not be a match for the city lord at all, and they might even be completely suppressed. This was the advantage of top-tier factions. Before, Qin had used many city lords to launch sneak attacks on some regions, and some regions had been easily destroyed. The soldiers could not do anything to city lord Qin, and could only watch. Qin had used this method to conquer many regions, and there were a few times when he had swept through dozens of regions. If it wasn't for the fact that other city lords had hurried over and used their top-tier powers to resist, Qin would have stopped. But if they didn't come, what could the other system soldiers do to Qin? Qin had conquered the cities one by one. The greatest weakness of the system soldiers was that their strength was scattered and could not be concentrated, so they could not resist city lords who had top-tier power. However, now that corps had appeared, things were different. If 100,000 stage 1 soldiers used corps formations and gathered all of their strength together, they would be able to resist city lords. What was more important was that the city lord's power came from the city lord's seal, while the corps had the attribute of destroying cities, which greatly countered the city lord's power. When using the corps to fight against the city lord would often be forced to run, and the result would be completely different. This was why corps formations were so powerful. The final corps was a monster-level power that a kingdom could use to resist. These monsters could be beasts or peerless experts. If they were too powerful and wanted to harm a kingdom, and the kingdom did not have any top-tier experts, they could only use corps formations. Soldiers in core formations would receive all sorts of powerful buffs, and the more core formations they fused with, the more powerful they would be. They would not be inferior to peerless experts, and this was mainly to defend against things that were too powerful and could harm a kingdom. Moreover, core formations were split into ordinary core and special core. There were no restrictions on ordinary core, and any kingdom could create one. However, the effects were quite ordinary, and they only had the core's 7 attributes. However, special core formations were different. Special core formations were quite special and powerful, and ordinary core formations were not as powerful as special core formations. However, special core formations had many restrictions. The first was the core vessel, which had powerful attributes. Even though these attributes could not be good or evil, they had to be able to fuse with a core. Another issue was compatibility. Some items were incredibly powerful, but they were not suitable for fusing with cores, so they would not be able to create special core formations. A core was an orb of light that was as big as a basketball and gave off a faint white light. It gave off a formless aura and was the most important item for creating a core. It was something that was birthed from a kingdom's fate. If an item could contain a core, the core would completely fuse with that item, and a special core formation would be created. The special core formation's attributes were closely related to this item. Because establishing a kingdom was quite common, Zhao Fu knew quite a bit about it, and this was not too surprising. This was the power of a core. However, there were not many of them, and Qin could create 13 core formations. In total, they only had 26 million soldiers, while Qin now had 200 million soldiers. With 26 million soldiers, 100,000 soldiers could suppress a city lord, and with that many soldiers, they could suppress 260 city lords. These soldiers would not have any problems fighting individually, and they would be more effective at killing city lords in groups. Government positions and core formations were how powerful a kingdom was. Only with these things could a kingdom be truly terrifying. Before, establishing a kingdom and not establishing a kingdom were two completely different things, and this was the difference. There were many system announcements, and a kingdom's boundary was also quite important. However, it had been mentioned before that the Great Wall had a kingdom's power, and not only was it incredibly sturdy, but it also served as a barrier. Even extremely powerful teleportation channels would not be able to cross the Great Wall. Chapter 869. This had been the dream of the Ying family for generations, to bring the state of Qin back to this world. Today, Zhao Fu had accomplished this, fulfilling their dream. After receiving Qin's legacy, Zhao Fu had gradually accepted his identity as Qin's legatee and accepted Qin's bloodline. Even though Zhao Fu only had a collateral bloodline, which was quite different from the Ying family's main bloodline, it was not pure enough. However, after receiving the legacy, Zhao Fu's Qin bloodline became incredibly pure, and Zhao Fu acknowledged his identity as a member of the Ying family. Today, Qin had been reborn in Zhao Fu's hands. Zhao Fu not only wanted to bring it back to its former glory, but he also wanted to create an even more glorious Qin. His blade would sweep through the world, and his sword would sweep through the world. He wanted the entire heaven-awakened world to know the name of Qin. Zhao Fu smiled as he walked down from the heaven prayer platform. Below, whether it was the ministers or commoners, they all respectfully knelt, looks of excitement and joy on their faces. "You may all rise." Zhao Fu smiled as he looked at everyone. Everyone else got up and bowed to Zhao Fu with smiles on their faces as they said, "Congratulations, Your Majesty, on becoming the true king of Qin." Zhao Fu lightly nodded and brought them back to the Qin palace. Now, Zhao Fu had two tasks: conferring titles to his ministers and establishing a core. Within a vast and heavy palace, Zhao Fu was wearing a black robe with a golden dragon on it and a crown on his head. He gave off a dignified aura as he sat on his throne, and there was an exquisite black and gold screen behind him. Below him, people were lined up in rows. Now, as the officials of the Qin state, they also wore the court uniform, which was mainly black, with auspicious beasts embroidered on it to distinguish their ranks. Li Si stood beside Zhao Fu, holding a long scroll in his hand. This scroll was black in color and was made from a type of black golden dragon cloth. This was only the outer cover of the scroll. Inside the scroll, there was a high-quality piece of paper with blood-red ink on it. Names and official positions were written on the paper. By Qi, ever since the heaven-awakened world descended, you have been by His Majesty's side and have contributed greatly to Qin City's current accomplishments. You are rewarded with a marquee general seal, the title of Protector of the Kingdom, 5 million gold coins, a large residence in the western part of Qin City, and many servants. Li Si's voice was loud and clear. One by one, the people stepped forward to receive the order. One by one, the seals flashed with white light and appeared in the air, landing in their hands. The state and county system was actually the heaven-awakened world's official system. Regions were divided into counties and had county lords, and they were also divided into states, which had state lords and marquises. However, this was not enough to create a complicated bureaucratic system. For example, Qin City's various departments and the ministers and generals of the royal court all had corresponding official positions and were responsible for the various organizations in Qin City. Evidently, the heaven-awakened world's bureaucratic system was not suitable, so Zhao Fu copied the ancient system and split the official positions into 9 grades. Each grade was divided into principal and subordinate, for a total of 18 grades. Zhao Fu set up corresponding official positions according to their duties and how important they were to Qin City, and he gave them titles. For example, Bai Qi was a principal rank 1 protector of the kingdom, and subordinate was a deputy general. They also had official seals, but they did not have much power and only had the authority to manage things. For example, managing a city or a region required a city lord seal, and the authority given to them meant that they could control things without using a city lord seal. In actuality, Zhao Fu wanted to follow the ancient bureaucratic system and not the heaven-awakened world's bureaucratic system. This was something that he could choose to do, and it would allow each official seal to have great power. However, as a level 5 barony, it only had so much power, which was the sum of general seals and official seals. Now that Zhao Fu had adopted a bureaucratic system, there would be more official seals and the power would be distributed. When that time came, a minor rank 9 official seal might not even have stage 1 power. Now that Qin City had just established a kingdom and was facing all sorts of dangers, Zhao Fu could not completely use the ancient bureaucratic system. Only a large kingdom could have its own independent bureaucratic system, as it already had great power. Right now, Qin City did not have that power. So even though Zhao Fu wanted to follow the ancient bureaucratic system, he did not distribute power and only gave authority. There were still many powerful official seals in Qin City, and there had not been any changes. Right now, Zhao Fu was only conferring rank 3 official seals, and future official seals would be conferred through imperial edicts. Otherwise, with so many official seals, Li Si would not be able to read them all in an entire day. As the official seals were conferred, all of Qin City fell into a celebratory mood. Everyone was brimming with smiles as they held banquets in their homes to receive guests from all over. Zhao Fu also held a banquet in the palace to celebrate the establishment of the Qin Empire and the conferment of the official seals. Even though Zhao Fu did not like to drink, he stayed at the banquet until midnight, and he reeked of alcohol. By now, many people had fallen to the ground drunk, and some people were still drinking. The scene was quite messy, but it could be seen how excited everyone was. Becoming an official was indeed a joyous thing in life, and it was something that countless people dreamed of. Luckily, Zhao Fu had long since made preparations to select talents to be the official seals of Qin City. If he had waited until the establishment of the empire, he would have been incredibly busy. Seeing that there were still people drinking at the banquet, Zhao Fu did not disturb them and quietly left. Even though Zhao Fu had drunk a lot today, it did not affect Zhao Fu's powerful constitution at all. As such, Zhao Fu wanted to take this time to take a look at the core. Now, Zhao Fu had 13 orbs of light in his hands, which were given to Zhao Fu by the core cores after the establishment of the empire. Zhao Fu first went to Qin City's City Hall. Qin City's City Heart was an epic grade item, and it was the core item of Qin City and could be used as a vessel for core cores. In actuality, many kingdoms used their capitals as vessels for core. These core were the royal core of a kingdom and were often the most powerful core of a kingdom, and they were personally controlled by the emperor. After coming to the city hall, Zhao Fu looked at the Rubik's Cube floating in the air, giving off a black light. There were also 9 savage-looking black dragons around it, and Zhao Fu took out a core and placed it into the city heart. Qin City's city heart and core were extremely compatible, and they instantly fused together, causing a powerful aura to burst forth. Countless rays of black light exploded out, instantly piercing through the entire city hall. Heaven and earth essence qi madly gathered, and a black dragon gradually formed in front of Zhao Fu, giving off a powerful dragon's might. Roar! Chapter 870. The stone steel in front of him was naturally the core stone steel. Soldiers could become members of the core through the core stone steel, and the stone steel in front of Zhao Fu was the black dragon stone steel. As mentioned before, the special core stats were related to the vessel it carried. The black dragon stone steel in front of Zhao Fu used Qin's legacy stone as its vessel, and its stats were definitely quite similar to Qin's. Zhao Fu went up and looked at its stats. Qin Imperial Core. With Qin's most important vessel as its vessel, it has received a massive amount of power from the Qin Empire, greatly increasing all stats. All members of the core can receive King's Guard power, and the core formation is a black dragon. The limit of the core has increased by 3 million. After looking at the stats, Zhao Fu smiled. He had never thought that the core's people would be able to obtain King's Guard's power. As for King's Guard's power, it was similar to King's power, but not quite the same. Their power came from a king. For example, Gania, Zhao Sha, and Tuoba Qing had all been given King's Guard power by Zhao Fu, making them Zhao Fu's personal guards. King's power was incredibly powerful, and King's Guard power was not weak either. If everyone in the core received King's Guard power, it could be imagined just how powerful the core would be. The core formation was a black dragon, which meant that the core formation was a black dragon. The Legion took the form of a black dragon. Not only was it easier to gather soldiers, but its power was also stronger than that of ordinary soldier qi. Finally, the limit of the core was increased by 3 million, which meant that the core could have 3 million more soldiers than other core. The core leveled up along with the kingdom, and the Qin Imperial Core was already level 5, so it could have 2 million soldiers. Adding on these stats, it could have 5 million soldiers. Each core also had their own flag, and Zhao Fu planned to use a bloody cloth with a savage black dragon embroidered on it as the Qin Imperial Core's flag. This would give off a bloody and austere aura. In ancient times, the most common colors in Qin were black and red. Black was the most important color in Qin, and red was the color of blood. This not only increased the soldiers' will to fight, but also intimidated enemies. Zhao Fu put away the core stone steel in satisfaction. This was Qin's city hall, so it was not suitable for changing professions. Zhao Fu had already used one of the 13 core cores, so there were still 12 left. He continued to search for other suitable army vessel. As one of the top dynasties in the Dark Demon world, the Vile Dynasty was not weak, and it had a massive amount of fate. Moreover, its Demon King City was one of the 3 capital cities of the Qin Empire, so most likely had the ability to be a vessel for an army. Zhao Fu went to the Demon King City and fused the core heart into the city heart. This process was quite smooth, and dense demonic qi flooded out as the city heart gave off demonic light. A demon king with 2 horns, powerful muscles, and sharp claws condensed. Roar! The demon king raised its head and gave a heaven-shaking roar as a powerful aura exploded out, turning into a stone steel with the image of the Demon King engraved on it. Demon King Core. With the Vile Dynasty's legacy city as the vessel, This core has received a massive amount of Demon King's power, greatly increasing all stats. All members of the core can obtain Demon King's power, and the core formation will be that of a Demon King. The limit for this core has increased by 1 million soldiers. This was a bit weaker than the Qin Empire's core, but it was only by a bit. It did not have the 3 million soldier bonus, but it only increased the limit by 1 million soldiers. Only the Royal Core would have the 3 million soldier bonus. However, this special core was much better than normal core, and the 1 million soldier bonus was quite good. Zhao Fu felt quite satisfied and put the Demon King Core Stone Steel away before heading to the Maurya city. The Maurya city was the legacy city of the Maurya dynasty, the #1 dynasty in India, and it controlled a clan armament. It was incredibly powerful, and as one of the 3 capital cities of the Qin Empire, it would most likely be a vessel for an army. After going to the Maurya City Hall, Zhao Fu took out a core heart and fused it into it. The process was quite smooth, and a blinding 5-colored light shined out as the Maurya City's city heart continuously trembled and gave off a powerful aura. Scree! A 5-colored peacock condensed within the blinding light and lightly flapped its wings, bringing with it a massive gale. It then turned into a stone steel with a peacock engraved on it in front of Zhao Fu. Maurya Core. With the Maurya dynasty's legacy city as the vessel, this stone steel has received a massive buff from the Maurya dynasty's power. All stats have been greatly increased, and all core members can obtain Maurya power. The core formation is a peacock, and the limit of 1 million soldiers has been increased. Zhao Fu felt quite satisfied and put the stone steel away before heading to the final capital city of the Qin Empire, which was 7 Kill City. As one of the 3 capital cities of the Qin Empire, 7 Kill City was quite powerful, and it had fused many terrifying 7 kill powers into it. Its attack power was quite terrifying. After coming to the city hall, Zhao Fu smoothly fused the core heart into the city heart. A powerful aura exploded out as a dense blood-red aura spread out, and the city heart continuously trembled as it gave off a blood-red light. This blood-red light gave off an extremely powerful killing intent, causing people's hairs to stand on end. Ordinary people would have long since been scared witless. Scree! A piercing cry sounded out as a blood-red eagle appeared. Its eyes were incredibly sharp and gave off a powerful aura of suppression, and it turned into a stone steel with a blood-red eagle engraved on it in front of Zhao Fu. 7 Kill Core. With the 7 Kill City as the vessel, this stone steel has received a massive amount of 7 kill power. All stats have been greatly increased, and all core members can obtain 7 kill power. The core formation is a blood-red eagle, and the limit of 1 million soldiers has been increased. This core formation was greatly related to Bai Qi, as 7 Kill City had been condensed by Bai Qi. It contained a massive amount of 7 kill power, and all stats have been greatly increased. All core members can obtain 7 kill power, and the core formation is a blood-red eagle. The limit of 1 million soldiers has been increased. Now that the 4 core formations have been created, they were the Qin Empire Army, the Demon King Core, the Maurya Core, and the 7 Kill Core. However, there were still 9 core hearts that Zhao Fu had not used yet. The most suitable vessels had all been used, and Zhao Fu could not help but think about what other vessels could be used. Special core were definitely much more powerful than normal core, and core hearts could only be used once. In other words, after creating a core, it could not be changed. After creating a normal core, it would be an ordinary core and could not become a special core. As such, Zhao Fu had to be careful and could not casually create a core. He had to find a suitable vessel to create a powerful special core. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.